Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 187. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, hello everyone. How you all doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I am well.
All right. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. And there's a document in the description beneath the video for those of you who want to follow along. And just as a FYI, we are Manosphere 3.0, so we are 3.0 compliant. If you want to know what the Manosphere third wave is about, go back to our anniversary hangout and you can find out there.
I
Complex
like
design, what's going on.
I like how you put that we are 3.0 compliant. I like that. That's a good tagline.
Yeah, definitely. Got to make sure you put that stamp of approval everywhere you go because there's a lot of stuff going on in the manosphere right now. The old manosphere and the old guard. It's kind of like those guys, or I mean, well, let's say a piece of technology like USB 2.0 and 3.0. Well, one's not going to be compatible with the other. And what we got to do is make sure we put that stamp on every single hangout so that people understand there are going to be compatibility issues if you're not compliant. If you don't file your taxes by April 15th, there's going to be consequences for this. We have to make sure we put that stamp of approval on every single hangout so that people listening to this understand that we're not like the old guard or the flunkies. There's a lot of flunkies in the manosphere, so just be UTV, what's going on? Raining Woman, what's going on? Jason Shorter, what's going on? Dave, what's up, man? So let me share my screen. We can get started. We got a lot on the docket tonight, anyways. All right, this one is from Spectrum IEEE.org. This is the organization for international electronics or electrical engineering, if I remember correctly. Terahertz waves could push 5G to 6G. At the Brooklyn 5G Summit, experts said terahertz waves could fix some of the problems that may arise with millimeter wave networks. It may be the sixth year for the Brooklyn 5G Summit, but in the minds of several speakers, 2019 is also year zero for 6G. The annual summit, hosted by Nokia and NYU Wireless, is a 4-day event that covers all things 5G, including deployments, lessons learned, and what comes next. This year, that meant preliminary research into terahertz waves, the frequencies that some researchers believe will make up a key component of the next generation of wireless. In back-to-back talks, Gerhard Fetweiss, a professor at TU Dresden, and Ted Rappaport, the founder and director of NYU Wireless, talked up the potential of terahertz waves. As a quick primer on electromagnetic spectrum, terahertz waves, despite what the name implies, only occupy 300 gigahertz to 3 terahertz band of spectrum. This means the frequencies are higher than the highest frequencies that will be used by 5G, which are known as millimeter waves and fall between 30 and 300 gigahertz. In his talk, Fetweiss discussed the potential of terahertz waves and 6G to solve some of the problems of 5G. He pointed to the trend established by previous generation of wireless. While 1G provided us with mobile telephony, 2G expanded on that and addressed some of its predecessors' shortcomings. 3G and 4G did the same with mobile data. Now that we're moving on to 5G, which is expected to support many new applications like Internet of Things (IoT) and augmented reality and virtual reality, Weiss said it was only natural that 6G would function similarly to 2G and 4G to correct the flaws of the previous generation. As to what exactly terahertz waves will correct, that's still largely unknown. Service providers around the world are only now rolling out their mobile 5G networks, and it will take time to identify the shortcomings. Even so, the physical properties of terahertz waves point to some general ways in which they could help. Terahertz waves, as mentioned, have shorter wavelengths and higher frequencies than millimeter waves. That suggests terahertz waves should be able to carry more data more quickly, though they will not be able to propagate as far. In general, that means that the introduction of terahertz waves into mobile networks could address any areas in which 5G isn't able to deliver high enough data throughput or low enough latency. During his talk, Weiss revealed the results of tests in which terahertz waves were able to transmit 1 terabit per second of data for a grand total of 20 meters. Yeah, not very far at all. I don't want to read too much into this because the rest of it is speculation. But what I'm saying here is that for wireless communication back then, this was the emergence of 4G, and it was on the test block. And this was in 2001. They were talking about this, so um, they must have been, this type of stuff, 6G. You probably won't see it until about 2025 at best. Usually, the life cycle for spectrums is somewhere between 5 to 6 years. So from 1G to 2G, you probably had about a span of about maybe 7 to 10 years. Um, and then from 2G to 3G, you had about 5 years. And then from 3G to 4G, 4G was the emergence of the Apple iPhone. So between 2003 to 2007 was that time frame of 3G to 4G. And then, from 4G to 5G, you're looking at probably about roughly 12 years, right? So that's where we are.
All right. The article said that the Terra waves would be shorter than the millimeter waves. Now, does that equate to the infrastructure needed for 5G needs to be built out? I understand that. More towers and shorter distances. But can those same towers carry the Terra waves that would be synonymous with 6G?
I don't think so.
So you have to have more towers, or not more towers, but with the towers in shorter areas, or those towers need to be built up in order to accept those waves.
It depends on how they structure it, right? No one wants to put up a whole bunch of 5G antennas on the towers and then take them back down just to replace it with 6G, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because 6G may work differently. So you may see something different happen. You may see 6G, get used in sort of that last mile, or maybe it might get used in something more rural where there's more flat land. Because what happens with millimeter waves is that they get disrupted by any sort of object. So even a window would bring down a bar on your phone,
Mm.
right? Water inside of trees, because the leaves hold all the water, and because the bark and the branches hold water inside of them, actually cause disruption on your cellular signal. because it can't penetrate it.
Now you mentioned how 4G really spurred on the popularity and the success of, in terms of bandwidth of the Apple iPhone. And the 4G allowed the iPhone to have those apps that will work simultaneously with the phone and the interface and the iOS system. Because of the bandwidth it delivered to the phone, it allowed the phone to work simultaneously, much like a computer, a mobile computer. Now with 5G, they're saying that it's low latency. You have with this Google Stadia,
Hmm.
with their gaming solution, I believe that can work very well with 5G. Now, with 5G, you also have other situations where you have autonomous vehicles will be able to work better because of their low latency, which means that even if there was a break in the not the latency, but the download link, it wouldn't be too bad. Now with 6G, and I'm just trying to paint the picture for people with the 5G. Now with 6G, you're talking about something that right now at a full, it's on another level basically. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be in order for it to be an evolution. Jess BU TV says she works in the telecom industry. She says that 6G will be designated bandwidth for the foundation of IoT. Only big course will use that bandwidth. She then goes on to say that new cell site boxes are being developed and improved on every year. She's right about this. She's right about that. But what I was trying to say was that they're not gonna they're not gonna develop 5G just to replace it with 6G. I mean, both of these are gonna work hand in hand, just like 4G and 3G towers are still or 3G networks are still in place, right? They didn't replace 3G networks with 4G and then and take down the 3G networks. They were gonna work in tandem. So I think what's and to her point about IoT, Internet of Things, in that regard, there there are so many IoT devices coming online in the next between now and 2025. Though I think 6G will be strategically placed based on the article itself, because you don't need a whole like 3G and 4G towers had to be they were placed on these large towers and large buildings, right? Big buildings that are 25, 30 stories, right? With 5G and 6G, especially 5G for this in terms of this discussion, you can drop antennas onto street poles and street lamps and actually distribute the network out more. It could be more concentrated, is what I'm trying to say. And you also have 802.11ax, which is the wireless equivalent of 5G. That's already on the docket now. It's already, I think, very few laptops have them, but a lot of your new phones coming out will have them. Those phones that fold, they will have them. So that Wi-Fi infrastructure is going to act as a last mile to 5G, where 5G can't be installed. That Wi-Fi connection is going to make up for that.
That's a good point. 3G and 4G working in tandem, like, well, 4G, 5G and 6G working in tandem like 3G and 4G did. And if let's say that's the case, that means 5G and 6G will be here for the next at least decade, because their
Mhm.
capabilities is so far and above 5G and not five. I'm getting my G's mixed up. 3G and 4G, that not only will it,
Nothing but a G thing, baby.
I know, right? Not only will not only will it solve the last mile issue, but it will have there'll be continuous connectivity everywhere with these two 5G and 6Gs.
Hmm. It also plays into blockchain as well. So they need bandwidth to push um, to push distributed ledger technology across networks like that. So,
Excellent, excellent.
mhm. All right. So let me get to this next article. This one is from Nature.com. CRISPR gene editing creates wave of exotic model organisms, but the practical challenges of breeding and maintaining unconventional lab animals persist. Joseph, Joseph Parker has wanted to know what makes rove beetles tick since he was 7 years old. The uh, entomologist has spent decades collecting and observing the insects, some of which live among ants and feed on their larvae. But without tools for studying the genetic and brain mechanisms behind the beetles' behavior, Parker focused his PhD research on Drosophila, fruit flies, an established model organism. Now, more than a decade later, the rise of CRISPR gene editing technique has put Parker's childhood dream within reach. He is using CRISPR to study symbiosis in rove beetles in his lab at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. By knocking out genes in beetles that live with ants and in those that do not, Parker hopes to identify how the insects' DNA changed as their lifestyles diverge. We're designing a model system from scratch, he says. Biologists have embraced CRISPR's ability to quickly and cheaply modify the genomes of popular model organisms, such as mice, fruit flies, and monkeys. Now they are trying the tool on more exotic species, many of which have never been reared in a lab or had their genomes analyzed. We finally we finally are ready to start expanding what we call a model organism, says Tessa Montage, a molecular biologist at Columbia University in New York City. Montage works on the Hawaiian bobtail squid and the dwarf cuttlefish, species whose unusual camouflage acts as an outward display of their brain activity. The cephalopods project patterns on their skin to match what they see around them. But probing how their brains process stimuli has been difficult. Researchers would normally do this by embedding electrodes or other sensors into the skull, but squid and cuttlefish are boneless. Last year, Montage and her colleagues successfully injected CRISPR components into cuttlefish and bobtail squid embryos for the first time. Now they are trying to genetically modify the cephalopods' neurons to light up when they fire. This is I'm not going to go into all this because this is really technical, and you need somebody like Nicole Ali on this hangout. And shout out to Nicole Ali. Um, this is really interesting stuff because CRISPR hasn't been out that long, and this is where they want to go with it. I mean, we covered an article, I think maybe about a week or so ago, on the technology hangout, and leveraging artificial intelligence to actually get the results better. And for those of you who don't understand machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence, is that machine learning is an algorithm that is used to parse data. The more data points you have, the better the algorithm can assess information. And when you leverage that to something like artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence gives human-like predictability in behavior to machines. So if you take enough gene editing or genomic editing data and you feed it to softbots or artificial intelligence, and leverage machine learning to parse the data, you can come up with better solutions without actually without actually stressing yourself out. Basically, what I'm trying to say. So there's a whole lot of things that can come out of this.
Yes, a lot of things. I will admit that it's it's good that they're doing it on animals, but at the same time, we've with the article with the twin girls that the sciences, what I think it's the sciences and doctor did in China, where it made them immune to the AIDS virus, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it made other genes, it made them susceptible to other things because of the changing of their genes. This, like you said, it just came out. It's not perfected. It takes years for these things to be perfected and to just go balls out with it from the get go. There could be a lot of there can be a lot of regrets in the near and long term with this without testing it in terms of it being perfected. Now, it's good that this type of technology has been discovered, but walk on eggshells is what I'm saying.
Hmm. All right, let me get to this next article. We got a lot on the docket, so I'll make sure we go through these. All right, this next one is from Singularity Hub. A deceptively simple tweak to CRISPR makes it 50 times more accurate. CRISPR may be the premier gene editing progeny poised to append natural genomes and erase inherited diseases. But since its inception, one thing has always stood in the way: accuracy. Back in 2017, a contentious report using CRISPR found massive off target edits in mice in which the tool went rogue to snip away at innocent genes. Although the study was heatedly refuted and eventually retracted, fears about the powerful tool's off target mutations remain. Even CRISPR based editors, alternate versions that swap one DNA letter with another and are considered relatively accurate, recently came under fire for causing hundreds of unintended mutations in both DNA and RNA. Without ensuring high levels of accuracy, any proposed CRISPR gene therapy becomes a genetic crapshoot. Now, a team from Duke University may have found a universal workaround, a trick to fundamentally boost CRISPR's accuracy in almost all its forms. Published this month in Nature Biotechnology, the team study tweaked the design of the guide RNAs, the indispensable targeting bloodhound of the CRISPR duo that hunts down the specific DNA sequences before its partner Cas makes the cut. The upgrade is deceptively simple. Tag a locking structure to one end of the guide RNA so that only the targeted DNA can unleash the power of the Cas scissors. Yet, exactly because the tweak is so easy, Guide RNA 2.0 can fundamentally tune the accuracy of multiple CRISPR systems, not just those relying on classic Cas9, but also newer diagnostic systems that deploy Cas12a and other flavors by as much as 200-fold. This is um this is really geeky stuff. I say geeky because it's what we call sexy in the industry, meaning that this is really exotic talk. So I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to bore people. But CRISPR is something that I think a lot of Black people should be looking to get involved with. We discussed last week that there was an actual free class on CRISPR. You can get your certification in this. Now let me see if I can share my screen again. Maybe this might help people out. This came up in my feed as I was doing this docket. um, Engineering Life, Synbio, Bioethics and Public Policy from Johns Hopkins University. And this is a course. Um, this is a course that features genomic editing and testing. So I believe it's broken down into what, 5 weeks? Yes, broken down to 5 weeks. And what this does is it talks about welcome to the engineering life, bioethics, and public policy, um, recombinant DNA technology, science and history, geoff research, biofuels, human health, governance. It's 100% online and not that difficult to take. And the enrollment starts tonight, or it started today for that matter. So if you look in the docket, that course is on there. So for those who are interested.
No comments on this one with me. Yeah, this goes deep into um yeah, this someone else that knows much more information about this than me would have to get into that.
Yeah, you would need somebody like Nicole Ali. So maybe Don Calypso. All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this next one is from technologyreview.com. AI's white guy problem isn't going away. A new report says current initiatives to fix the field's diversity crisis are too narrow and shallow to be effective. The numbers tell the tale of the AI industry's dire lack of diversity. Women account for only 18% of authors at leading AI conferences, 20% of AI professorships, and 15% and 10% of research staff at Facebook and Google, respectively. Racial diversity is even worse. Black workers represent only 2.5% of Google's entire workforce and 4% of Facebook's and Microsoft's. No data is available for transgender people and other gender minorities, but it's unlikely the trend is being bucked there either. This is deeply troubling when the influence of industry has dramatically grown to affect everything from hiring and housing to criminal justice and military. Along the way, the technology has automated the biases of its creators to alarming effect, devaluing women's resumes, perpetuating employment and housing discrimination, and enshrining racist policies, policing practices. Let's see if I can read some more of this. Policing practices and prison convictions. These consequences will only worsen without a different approach to fixing the problem, says a new report out this week from the Research Institute AI Now. The problem of lack of diversity in tech has reached a new and urgent inflection point, said Meredith Whitaker, the Institute's co-founder, on a press call accompanying the report. Millions of people are feeling the effects of these tools and are affected by any artificial intelligence bias that gets baked into them. The Artificial Intelligence Now team, AI Now team, identifies two main reasons why efforts to address a lack of diversity has failed. First, there's a heavy emphasis on increasing women in tech and less on improving diversity of race, gender, and other equalities. Second, there's a disproportionate focus on fixing the pipeline, the idea of increasing the number of candidates from unprecedented groups that flow from schools to industry. This, this tends to underestimate the other systemic disadvantages that prevent women and minorities from staying in the field, such as harassment, unfair compensation, and imbalances of power. The researchers offer several recommendations for improving workplace diversity in a more comprehensive way. These include measures aimed at closing the pay and opportunity gap, increasing diversity at the leadership levels across departments, and changing the incentive structures for company executives to hire and maintain and retain workers from underrepresented groups. But the problem also runs deeper than hiring and compensation practices, says Jesse Daniels, a researcher at Data and Society, who studies the intersection of racism and technology and was not involved in the report. The tech industry was fundamentally built on the ethos that technology exists independently of society, she says. In the early 90s, there was this idea that the internet was going to release us from things like race and gender and infirmity. The idea that we were going to the idea that we were going to go to this place called cyberspace where we wouldn't have to think about the embodiment of or identity anymore. That idea has stayed with the industry to this day and is the root of both the repeated failures to increase employee diversity and the repeated scandals around AI bias. Tech companies are built and tech products are designed with a fantasy belief that they exist independently of sexism, racism, and societal context around them. That's not a bug, Daniel says. It's a failure. This is a timely article because we just had a hangout on Saturday about a Black IT summit for the spring of 2019. And this is exactly why I had the summit, and this is why we even have the Black Brain Trust to begin with. The lack of diversity, the unfair practices that still go on, the structural inequalities that Black men just go through, not even just women, just Black men going through this type of stuff. Um, it's a big problem, and I think that what happens with these discussions is that you're not getting it from the from the source. You're not getting it from Black men. You Every time someone wants to talk about diversity and inclusion in the tech industry, it's always a woman or it's always somebody who's not Black. It can never be a Black man. So what I try to do with the hangouts, I try to speak from a Black man's perspective, and I also try to give um I also try to give from a perspective that we can actually do this on our own. We really don't need somebody who doesn't look like us trying to speak for us and represent, you know, what we go through. We don't need a Black Lives Matter in the tech industry. What we need is Black men to speak up more and speak out. So when I do these hangouts, like the tech hangouts and stuff like that, if you had to go to a tech conference is going to cost you $3,000 up front. What we do it for free, and we're giving you the same game, but just from our perspective. So be thankful that people like us are actually speaking out, man, because there's a lot of racism that is not really talked about because the gatekeepers who get into tech and don't speak out are the part of the problem too. They get their job, they get their 9 to 5, they get their salary, and then they keep their head low. They don't say anything. What's going on, brother? You want to jump in on this?
Yeah, what's going on, Mike? Mike, that's a really, really, really awesome, sweet information that you just dropped, because that is very true. I do some level of tech hiring as well, and the only time that I've seen really decent Black technical people get hired is through another really Black person, either who's a director or a key architect or somebody who's in a key position to really put these people in place. I do believe that if you do have certain kinds of programming skills and so forth, that if you're Black, you will get opportunities. But the same barriers that do exist in other areas of the corporate world for Black advancement does exist in the tech world. Tech should be ideally a raceless environment based really on skills, but that's just, once again, that is just not how that is.
Hmm.
And black men tend to, once they get in these positions, if they are in a hiring position, they tend to hire black people who tend to come up who are very qualified. But still, we also do see a lack. Unfortunately, we don't see as many black people in the tech sector as we should have in there as well. So the
Hmm.
tech sector is underrepresented by black people, and I'm going to say that unfortunately that's an unfortunate fact. We need more technical people, but barriers are there. Um, that Mike just brought up. The information Mike just dropped on you as far as having an IT Tech Summit and really talking about this kind of information, bringing this type of information to you. Um, you will spend a lot of money outside of a forum like this to get informed. There's no question about it, and he's dead on the money there. But Mike, you bring up an excellent point. We have to keep banging on that, and we have to really also really encourage people to get in here and involve ourselves technically from training and get into these management positions, if you will, and help us to hire others as well. So we have to do that. The fourth industrial revolution is here, and there's nothing really holding us back in many respects, except kind of ourselves and getting a lot of good information out there. And we will have to do that. Unfortunately, I do believe that there's always going to be some kind of barrier there where people are going to try to keep you from getting in there. But if you put a lot of pressure on the system and you're in there, you can negotiate it. So I'll just leave it from there. Go ahead, Mike.
I know you have anything you want to add?
Is Lionel there? Or is he on
No,
mute?
no, I'm
I
on.
think I think
Skip
I
this
think.
one.
What's up, Bud Lade?
Go ahead,
What's
Lionel.
going on? How you doing? How you doing? Now, me personally, I don't have any particular experience in this, being blocked from these type of jobs. So, I'm gonna skip this one. But I
Would you
do
say that the
agree with you.
military?
Oh, go ahead.
Would you say that the military has the same problem as well, or is there similar issues with the military in terms of racial tolerance and intolerances of different ethnicities?
Supposedly, technical, well, all jobs really, not just technical, are
Hmm.
divvied out per your ASVAB scores. But I haven't heard of enough anecdotal evidence to say that, oh, any black people in the military that went to A1 schools, or perceived A1 schools, on these technical these polytechnical schools, and they know they stuff, but when they sent them to the military, they were only offered specific type of jobs, like like cooks or things of that nature. So I don't have any enough anecdotal evidence to say that or not.
Okay. But yeah, back to the article. This is why I kind of really, I mean, that's why we frequently talk about tech a lot, and trying to get brothers into the tech field at the emerging end of it. I don't talk about getting jobs at Geek Squad and working at Staples and Office Max. That's for the birds, man. We need to be in the emerging fields that matter. Your artificial intelligence, your cloud computing, your blockchain, and your cryptos, and machine learning and autonomous vehicles. Um, these emerging fields are exactly where Black people need to be at, and unfortunately, you know, um, we don't take this stuff seriously. You can go through YouTube right now, what's originally called the Manosphere. Those guys who are not 3.0 compliant. Shame on them. These guys, they sit around talking about, Pookie and Ray Ray, and they got drug dealers on their hangouts and human traffickers and all these weird people with all this weird energy that's talking about nothing. And then they look around and they say, well, how come black people aren't doing this and how come black people aren't doing that? Well, look at the manosphere. The manosphere needs to be cleaned up. People are sick and tired of going to these hangouts and seeing this, this crap. People aren't really building like they say they should, or like they say they do. You should be out there putting in more work. If I come to your hangout, I should be able to walk away and feel like I learned something for you. But if I walk away and I see nothing but madness going on in there, and your hangouts are run like a trap house, then yeah. Of course, I'm gonna
Trap,
be disappointed.
trap house, hangouts, man.
Oh yeah, a digital trap house.
Wow.
It's disappointing, man. It's really disappointing.
Well, that's true. A lot of truth. A lot of truth in those words. We definitely, Mike. I'm feeling you real close. We really need to do that. I was talking to Mr. Research the other day, and he came up with a fairly startling statistic. He said that by 2025, I forget the number he exactly quoted, so I don't want to quote the number he quoted, but it was a fairly high number of many black men will be homeless and will be out of work and and who don't have families will be basically out on their ass. And it's a kind of a frightening idea, but I think he's not too far off the mark on some of that. We don't really have a lot of good support systems for ourselves. We are going to have to put a lot more emphasis on really getting training and certifications and so forth to really help to build careers for ourselves in the future. We're really going to have to be about this. The opportunities are there. So that's why it's important that we become, if anything, repositories of information, help people to kind of guide people into these areas and really talk a lot more about this so people become a lot more aware and so they can begin to prepare themselves to make certain kind of moves. There are people who are in transitions in their jobs. They may be coming out of one field and saying, hey, listen, this is not working for me. Let me do something else. And let's talk maybe more about the IT field, the tech field. That's a great field. Some people may not have or may not be that tech savvy. So where else can they go? We have to be able to provide that kind of information as well. But since we are on a IT hangout right now, or we're talking more from the IT perspective, there's a lot of opportunity here. And for those who might want to make some career changes and so forth, this is an area that we really have to look into. It is wide open. Yes, there are some barriers. Yes, there's going to be some level of racism. Yes, there is. But still, if you get the training and you get you get certified. I don't know anyone who really is black who was a C#, C++ developer. Strong in some of the Microsoft suite of products, and really is strong in some of this cloud computing that's out of work. I don't believe that there are those people out there. Mike, are you aware of any? I'm just asking.
Are you saying absent from being black or being black?
Being black.
Oh yeah. That's a very it's like I was saying before. A lot of people, I should say, folk, when they talk about technology, they always talk about it from fixing, just a laptop or a desktop or, some very low level, entry level stuff, and they get stuck in that entry level cycle. So they, we're not in the emerging fields like we should be. What happened with this administration and even the previous administration is that they've pushed back against these H-1B visa programs.
Yes.
And what that has done, it has opened up a lot of opportunity for black people to get involved in the tech field and to be more dominant.
Great point.
And we're not taking advantage of those opportunities. There was just an article, I think we might have covered it before, maybe about a week or so ago. Infosys, which is an Indian company.
IT consulting firm where they place people all over the place.
Yep.
Very aware of them.
They have a big contract with Verizon because they just took over Verizon's IT sector because Verizon laid off 44,000 workers in IT, and Infosys is going to fill that role. The problem that Infosys is having is that the H-1B visa program isn't working to their advantage. So now they have to go out and hire these minorities. Who are the minorities? Going to be black people.
That's exactly correct. And there's a lot of wide open opportunity for you. In India, University of Hyderabad, that I'm very aware of, they sit back and they just have classes, C, all the front end web development class, Java, and everything else like that. Even classes like Sybase, that people are saying that's an old relational database, relational database of system, but legacy system, but doesn't really exist. No, they're doing front end development in that as well. I mean, all kind of stuff going on, and you have these companies that are still, how would I say, cross-functional matrix companies that have a lot of different technologies, and they still are, haven't fully upgraded, and are doing, all different types of migrations and stuff right now to really get up to speed. And you have these Indian companies who are coming in and doing all this stuff, and now like Mike said, the H-1B visa program has been cut back, and now they still have to get people here to do these migrations and upgrades, and that's with the banking systems and banking systems very heavily, healthcare systems. Wall Street very heavy. Back end, development. Where you're dealing with extraordinary amounts of data, speed of data, these types of things that are coming through. You need to have some really sharp folks there. You can write your ticket if you're getting certain kinds of training. And usually it was the Indians and many of the of the Arabic people and many Russians. Russians were very big with how would I say, the back-ended legacy systems, or the big COBOL CICS kind of systems that they really ran that heavily. But now they have to develop the front end for a lot of this now. And still the people saying, well, the COBOL systems and all those your huge back-end legacy systems are done. No, man, they're still there, and people are still upgrading and moving in certain other in certain other kind of areas. I see people that are on Oracle, Oracle, the whole general ledger program, release 12 and so forth, with all that, and people are still doing migrations, upgrades from Oracle 9 to Oracle 12. I mean, it's ridiculous. So there's a huge amount of opportunity in these areas, and I just want us to start to wake up and think a lot more along those lines, because there's big money in it, big dollars. You can become very, you can become fairly wealthy. Well, when I say fairly wealthy, you can definitely get six figures will be easy to make. I mean, you'll work hard, but easy to make. And I just want to keep our eyes open on some of this. Mike, go ahead. I think you were going to say something. I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you were right about the Russians. The Russians were stuck in a time warp in the 90s, so they had to really, keep up the legacy systems that they had. But half of my staff was in Russia last year. Out of a 40-man team, half of them were in Moscow. So I know what you're talking about. They are very proficient at information technology, because they have to be. I think what happens in the Black community is that we don't network enough. And job opportunities is not about what you know, it's about who you know in this industry. So if you don't know anybody on the inside, you're not getting in. And unfortunately, that's
very true. Very true. It's very true.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game.
And the piece I want to open up is a lot of guys. How does a COBOL programmer all of a sudden become very strong in Java? And he's now a front-end developer of Java, Swing, JWT, and all that. And he's in cloud computing, and he's rocking and rolling there. How does he make that transition? So he knows somebody now can get in there. This guy knows programming. He understands syntax. He understands the whole game to play this. Boom! Even though the systems might be different, they operate and it's some of the same way structurally. You can pick that programming up pretty fast and move up pretty quickly. And it's who he knows in there that can get him up on this stuff very quickly. And that's very true. So that's why we have to build organizations inside of organizations, the banking systems and the healthcare and all this stuff that's going on right now. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. So we need to be thinking about that. And of course, when Mike's talking about getting involved in AI and all that, oh my God, the possibilities and openings there are immense. And Mike, go ahead, Mike. I don't want to, talk anymore about that, but we'll move forward.
No, I was just gonna follow up with what you was. I was just gonna follow up with what you were saying about, getting into this field. the networking aspect is so key. The social networking aspect. I'm not talking about plugging in routers and switches. I'm talking about
Correct.
the
Correct.
hand to hand, face to face contact, being at these events, being suit and tied up, with your pencil skirts and your stilettos, being humble and really reaching out, to other people who may work for different companies. I work in life sciences, in cloud computing, cloud security, so I can tell you that I'm the only guy on my team that's actually African American, but it was actually an Indian person who reached out to me through LinkedIn and said, "I like all your skills, and I heard about you through somebody else. Like to get you in here." And it only took a few hours before they made me an offer. So
There you go.
what
There
I'm
you
saying
go.
here is that you got to be able to network a lot, man. Most of my jobs, if not all of my opportunities, have come through networking, either through LinkedIn or some boots on the ground, talking with people at conferences and things like that. Being able to articulate stuff that which is why we have these hangouts. We kind of do a lot of information dissemination. The ability to walk into an environment and be that that black man or that black woman who can speak in a way that's about information that they think that you don't know, that really blows them away. That really blows them away, and that opens up a lot of
Absolutely.
opportunities. So
Absolutely correct. I remember when I first started getting into the whole IT field, and I had started out in a certain vertical. And Mike, you might be aware of it's kind of not really it was integrated into something else now, but I don't know if you remember Lotus Notes. Do you remember that Lotus Notes?
yes, yeah, still, I used to support those a few years ago.
Yeah. The whole Lotus Notes and
Domino servers and all that.
the Domino server. Exactly, you hit it right in the head. Now I started out just in that vertical alone, and in order for me just to really start to recruit and get a lot of people there, I had to go to a lot of just IT conferences that was strictly looking at the whole new Lotus Notes deal that was going on. I think I was at the time I was Lotus Notes was out with 3.5. They were moving to 4.5, and they were coming out with release 5.0, and then that whole thing was now being integrated in with in fact, the Lotus script was now being changed over also to JavaScript as well, because now you had a whole front end you were developing with, and it was almost like a semi-relational database, almost kind of a system, but it was kind of close with it, but very similar to Java in a lot of ways, and in order for me to get involved in that, I had to really walk around and just go to a lot of different places and hook up with a lot of people. And I was surprised to see, and I remember when this guy, Patrick Humphrey, brother, turned me on to a lot of stuff. He had gotten in that pretty early, and he hooked me into a community of Black IT people where I could actually recruit from, and I recruited a couple of really good, Lotus Notes people who were Black, and got them in some pretty nice jobs because they were kind of on the bench and they were consultants, but they were looking to get into some more robust positions to learn a lot more, because you learn a lot on the job, if you will. And again, given a various environment, you can really pick up a lot if you're in an environment that's going to permit you to really pick up a lot and learn a lot. And I saw that they were small groups of Black groups then moving around, and I had gotten connected into that. That's what people have to do, kind of move around and network, and that was the key thing. Networking was very important, and that's not gonna change. That's the bottom line of everything. That was true then, as it is true today, and here we are. Basically at kind of the same level, and less Black people in the tech field. I find that a bit disturbing. So I think that's something that we here in the manosphere are going to have to really kind of scream out a lot more and really get a lot more of our people kind of thinking about this. Because there are a lot of intelligent people listening in. You don't have to have a degree. One of the best Unix SAs I ever got hired was a kid. Listen to this. A kid who was in his house. He was just one of these little nerd kids, and his parents had a little bit of money, so they were able to buy him a few Linux servers, a few Unix servers and Linux and so forth. And he had Red Hat and all that kind of stuff. And he just played around with all this crap in his house. And then we gave this kid a tech test, and he blew it out of the water. Kid was 17 years old. We had to get permission for his mother to come in and work, okay? Because he was such a strong Unix backend guy. It was ridiculous. And he picked up all the stuff just going live in his house. And he ended up getting a job, 17 years old. We started him out at a fairly low salary. That low salary was $70,000 a year, 17. And rest is history. I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that the way we're going to defeat these AI hiring processes and these automated processes in terms of hiring from an HR perspective is through networking. That's the only really way we're going to do it. So you got to be a part of the National Society of Black Engineers. You got to be out there connecting and networking with people at any of these events, man. I'm on Meetup.com. I'm on Eventbrite. I still go to these events. Even still doing these hangouts, I might be late for a hangout because I went to an event, not because I needed it, because I want to show FaceTime. People are gonna know me. They're gonna say, "Yo, that guy Mike, yeah, he's a good guy." Would vouch greatly for him. So that's the type of stuff that we need to really be focused on. And make sure you have a proper email. It shouldn't be like Junebug69. Eat the booty like groceries at gmail.com. Like you gotta have a clean email. That's the first thing you gotta do. I've seen it.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, come on, dude. Wow. Oh
guys are out here.
Oh, we screaming here. All right, that's pretty funny. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me get to this next article because we got a lot on the docket. All right, this next one is from Psychology Today. Neuroscientists transform brain activity to speech with AI. Artificial intelligence is enabling many scientific breakthroughs, especially in the fields of study that generate high volumes of complex data, such as neuroscience. As impossible as it may seem, neuroscientists are making strides in decoding neural activity into speech using artificial neural networks. Yesterday, the neuroscience team of Kopala K. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. That's going to be butchered. Published in Nature their study in using artificial intelligence and state-of-the-art brain-machine interface to produce synthetic speech from brain recordings. The concept is relatively straightforward. Record the brain activity and audio of participants while they are reading aloud in order to create a system that decodes brain signals for vocal tract movements. Then synthesize speech from the decoded movements. The execution of the concept required sophisticated finessing of cutting-edge AI techniques and tools. For this study, 5 fluent English-speaking epileptic participants consented to participate. Why use epileptic participants? A gathering factor in neuroscience is the availability and access to living, functioning human brains to conduct research. There are not many volunteers for obvious reasons. Consenting epileptic patient volunteers offer neuroscientists a valuable opportunity to conduct in vivo studies while they are undergoing invasive brain treatment for epilepsy. An estimated 30% of epilepsy patients are medically resistant. Their seizures are not controllable by non-evasive methods such as anti-epileptic medications. For those patients, invasive brain surgery may provide the best odds for controlling the seizures. The participants in this research study were already undergoing surgery to temporarily implant electrodes to identify areas of seizure for upcoming neurosurgery to treat epilepsy. Each participant had a high-density subdural electrode array implanted over their brain's lateral surface as part of their epilepsy treatment that may record or stimulate neurons with electrical pulses. Um, I think we kind of get the gist of this, and I want to point out that it's a coincidence that this article would come up because there's actually a program on EDX. See if I can pull it up. Let's see if I can. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Just give me a second. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So edX actually has a certificate program on this from Harvard. You don't need to take a test to get into Harvard for this. You can actually do this online, straight from EDX. And the cost of it is $267.30, less than the Louis Vuitton belt, less than a pair of LeBron James or whatever famous sneakers out right now. The introduction to neuroscience covers everything from the function of individual neurons to the structure of brains. And it says what you'll learn: fundamentals of bioelectricity, how you can do neuroscience in your home, how neurons communicate with each other, how sensory perception works in the brain, and the basic anatomy of functional areas of the brain. It's all self-paced, so you work at your own pace and at your own leisure. It requires 3 to 5 hours per week per course, and it's 4 to 15 weeks per course. There's 3 courses. So I'm going to drop this in the chat. If you're not going to take the course, man, share it with somebody that you think would benefit from it. So.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. I think we touched on something like that before. That artificial intelligence using text to speech for your brain waves, and it's pretty cool. Still pretty cool.
Yeah, as artificial intelligence gets better in its cycle development, you're going to see a lot more people use it because it's you can download it for GitHub. TensorFlow 2.0, everybody's working with that. That's what Google uses for their Google Duplex. So
Yeah, neuroscience though. I took that in college and in grad school, and I got to say that yeah, that is tough to studying because when you start getting into the arteries, paravertebral arteries, and all that, you start getting into the various nerve areas and so forth, and just learning a lot. There's a lot there, a lot there, a lot there, a lot there. It's and it gets really tough when you start learning different spinal tracts and cerebral spinal tracts, and all. You start getting into a lot of stuff. It gets ill. Neuroscience gets ill. So if you do decide to undertake such study, be prepared to put a lot of time into it.
Yeah. So let me move on to this next article. Walmart Oh, by the way, what's going on, DE? All right, this next one is from TechCrunch.com. Walmart unveils an AI-powered store of the future now open to the public. Walmart this morning unveiled a new store of the future and test grounds for emerging technologies, including AI-enabled cameras and interactive displays. The store, a working concept called the Intelligent Retail Lab (IRL) for short, operates out of Walmart Neighborhood Market in Levittown, New York. The store is open to customers and is one of Walmart's busiest neighborhood market stores. Containing more than 30,000 items, the retailer says, which allow which allows it to test out technology in a real-world environment. Similar to Amazon Go's convenience stores, the store has a suite of cameras mounted in the ceiling. But unlike Amazon Go, which is grab and go with smaller square footage, Walmart's IRL spans 50,000 square feet of retail space and is staffed by more than 100 employees. Plus, in Walmart's case, these AI-powered cameras are not being used to determine which items customers are buying in order to automatically charge them. It still has traditional checkout stations. Instead, the cameras will monitor inventory levels to determine, for example, if staff needs to bring out more meat from the back room refrigerators to restock the shelves, or if some fresh items have been sitting too long on the shelf and need to be pulled. The idea is that AI will help the store associates know more precisely where and when to restock products, and this in turn means customers will know the produce and meat is always fresh and in stock when they arrive. Using technology to do this is not simple, Walmart says. It means automated systems will need to be able to detect products on the shelf, recognize exact product it sees, 1 pound of ground beef versus 2 pounds, and then compare the qualities of or the quantities on the shelf to upcoming sales demand. For store associates, the system allows them to stop constantly walking the store to replace inventory. Instead, they'll know what to bring out from the back room before the doors even open and to customers that day. The camera and other sensors in the store pump out 1.6 terabytes of data per second, or the equivalent of 3 years worth of music, which necessitates a big data center on site. At the IRL store, it's glass encased, bathed in blue light, and on display to the public. This could seem a little intimidating, AI cameras and giant servers, but Walmart says the data is only stored for less than a week. There are also informational stations in the store where customers can learn more about the technology in use. A welcome center in the store is available too for customers who want to learn more about the technical specifications to get answers to common questions. This is yeah, this is next level. I don't want to say it's better than Amazon's Go stores, but you know, they are leveraging 2/3 technology and 1/3 human interaction, which is it's quite a feat. And it probably didn't cost them a whole lot. It looks like it cost them very little, because you don't have to pipe you don't have to pipe information over fiber to a data center out some remote location. The data center is on site, so a lot of the processing technology is happening in real time right in the store, and they're using the store as a data center in itself. So there's a lot of good things that Walmart is doing in the retail space in comparison to what Amazon is doing. But then again, Walmart doesn't have their own AWS, if that makes any sense. They don't have their own cloud computing set up in the same way that Amazon has AWS. So Amazon has a bit of an advantage there. So you gentlemen have anything you want to add to this?
That's amazing that they're doing. They're putting the data center on site, the amount of information that's pumped out every day
Hmm.
is, well, does require that data center on site. And the employees, that's they're not going to hire more employees. They're going to have the employees that they have do more, or and repurpose the employees that they have. So with the items that's on shelves, like the articles mentioned, that they're going to have, cameras and everything monitor items on the shelves. Something needs to be restocked, they'll restock it. Meaning, if when those employees are not busy restocking, then they're going to answer customers' questions, guide customers. So the employees that they have are just going to do more, be more Swiss, and like a Swiss Army knife. So they're not going to have hire stock people, then hire people that's gonna be roaming the aisles that going to help people, and because they're already talking about cashless stores.
Hmm. You know what this does? It's going to require people to work at Walmart. You're going to need a degree, or you're going to need something from like a nano degree from Udacity.
Right,
Go ahead, jump in.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah,
right.
because that's upgrading. That's upgrading your skills. You got to be a little sharper on that.
Yeah, because we already talked about some other place having their commercials have some type of blockchain experience
Yep,
or teaching them.
yep, yep.
Mhm.
And imagine black people saying, "Oh, I don't need to do this. I don't need to," the
Mm-hmm.
attitudes some black people have, that I don't need
Mm-hmm.
to do this or I don't need to do that. Then now you have and this is just my opinion. Now you have a bottleneck at the top where you have jobs, and not enough people in this country having jobs. And so you have a situation where people are going to be jacking for these jobs, and they're going to do anything they have to do in terms of, hey, oh, I need to learn this, I need to learn that. Okay. And then that's not including, people looking out for their own people.
Mhm.
I think what you kind of bring up is going to it's going to come down to the training. Is there going to be a training dearth? Are people going to be untrained, and then you're going to have folks who are just going to be out there, just hanging out, or you're going to be properly trained right, and then where you can actually
Mhm.
get these jobs, because they are currently right now in the United States alone close to 1 million jobs right now that are unstaffed in the IT industry. That's going on right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
That's going
Yeah,
on
I mean,
right now.
yeah, you're gonna need to know, JavaScript or
That's right.
Java just to bag groceries at some
Th- th-
point. Just
that's
open up a
exactly
bag
correct.
and put some items in there.
That's exactly right. And not that JavaScript, these kind of things are difficult actually to learn. You can learn it online, but you do have to take some time to pick it up. So, um, yeah, that's where we're at. That's why the Germans have done well with their economy, because they have a constant training program where they're constantly retraining people to move in one sector to another, and keep them occupied and working. They are up on that training. Plus, I mean, they have some other things that keep certain things in place, like unions and so forth. But yeah, we've got some key issues here. Key issues. So
What, what's what's
Lionel does
Germ
bring up a good point. Go ahead.
what's Germany's population? 80 million.
Yeah, just about 80 million. Just a
Yeah.
little over 80 million. But yeah,
So
Lionel, what we were
they're
saying.
talking.
It's a great point you
Mhm.
bring it up. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say that that's double the population in the United States for Black people,
Yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean,
and
yeah.
they're able to maintain their society. So we have to start thinking, how is this going to work going forward for Black people?
The, the, the,
You got to take into consideration that you only have a short window of opportunity to restructure yourself, or restructure the community as a whole. And I don't think that you know uh, having these reptiles on these panels is actually going to help you.
No, it's not. I mean, when you look at Germany real quick, Germany they have programs. You know, they have training programs for how you brush your teeth properly. I mean, these guys don't do jack without some type of training program for you to upgrade your skills. This is where they are, and that's, you know, that's a part of their society and culture. We have to adopt that. We have to adopt that as well. I mean, they also have a very strong union movement there as well. So they keep unions involved. They keep people working, so they're not, you know, kicking people to the curb as easily. But they have a very productive society, and you know, their computing and their manufacturing and all that is first class, and they keep people working because of that. But anyway, you have a. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lionel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You have to change your priorities. Your priorities have to be changed, and that will guide you to learn these things. Because if you're doing these same priorities that some of these hangouts are doing, and want to go into learning something new, your attention is going to be divided. So your priorities have to change.
DE, you have something you want to add? What's going on, brother?
What's going on?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, Linnell just took something away. What I was going to say, the priorities have to change because, for one thing, America is built. They used to have community colleges that taught welding, for instance. Before that, they used to have technical schools that you can learn auto mechanic, welding, you know, aircraft maintenance and all that. All those schools were taken out, and the only choice you have left is college. Whereas in Germany, those same schools are built into the system. You can go all the way to college, yeah, but when you come out of high school, you can go to technical school, and then when you come out of technical school, you go to a company is going to hire you, and you're going to finish your training through that company. You might stay with that company for the rest of your life because every time they change, say you start out making bolts, and then they started making computer equipment. They're going to try to train you into what the area that they go into instead of firing you and hiring somebody else. And the system here in America is not like that. You start out working at McDonald's, and if you don't get a college degree, you stay at McDonald's. And then when McDonald's goes out of business because of the technology, you're crying on the street talking about how you know, your job went to China, and instead of retraining yourself, you don't look for a way out of the situation. You don't keep ahead of the situation. A lot of people, black people especially, don't do that.
We complain, and as a group, we complain more than we innovate, or more than we do things that will protect our interests. We complain more.
Well,
Yep.
because they think that protesting is the modus operandi, you know, for a black justice, right? They figure that's the way to go about it. That might have worked in the 1960s, right? That might have worked during the Cold War, but at this point, that's an option that can be taken off the table very easily. The way to counter this type of stuff is to constantly, instead of using the technology, you got to drive it. And I think what's happening with a lot of black people is they're falling behind culturally, or due to their culture, because they fail to innovate. And like we said before, you know, innovative ideas come from complex conversations. And unfortunately, you can look around the manosphere and see all these 2.0 compliant people that are just not compatible with what we're talking about. So therefore, they tend to be the losers of the game.
See, one of the problems we have is
Mike,
that
you do not mince words.
one of the problems that we have that I see we have is that see, when I got out of school, I still continue to. I watched the stock market. I watched the laws that change. You know, we black people don't do that. The majority of black people don't do that. We've got this idea that we get a job, and then it pays enough to pay the bills, so we can go out and party on Saturday night, buy a car. That's it. we kind of rest too easy, and we don't kind of like I try to get people interested in learning, continual education. But when you got somebody who the neighbor is trying to be a rapper, and your best friend that knows somebody who is a rapper, you know, everybody think that it is easy to rap, so that's the job that they want, so, and that doesn't work for everybody.
Well, let me tell you this before we move on to the next article. Hip hop is a very complex um, form of communication, right? So a song is a program, right? Whether it's rap or R&B or whatever you want to classify it as. The lyrics are the code, and the pace of the song itself is the algorithm. So what I'm saying here is that we have been doing this type of stuff for a long time. Rappers are probably one of the would probably be one of the best software developers had they put their mind to it. The ability to memorize the code, which are the lyrics, and the algorithms, which is the rhythm itself, and to put all that into process. That's a very complex skill set. So unfortunately for us, we never really capitalized off of that. We never really moved in that direction of evolution and innovation. So we kind of got stuck in the you know the money making aspect of music rather than to transform that stuff into something more innovative. So let me jump to this next article real quick. Yeah, I agree with complex. It's been reverse engineered and taken over by skinny jeans and colorful dreads. All right, this next one is from Engadget.com. Ford's futuristic shopping cart can brake on its own. A sensor detects objects like parked cars to prevent runaway collisions. That's a picture of the alleged cart. Ford has been applying its automotive expertise to create some amusing and practical devices like conveyor belt bed and noise canceling doghouse, because why the heck not? Now the automaker has come up with another doozy. It's a self-break-in shopping cart based on its pre-collision assist technology that's designed to prevent any supermarket mayhem. If your kids use it as a skateboard or if it runs away in the parking lot, a sensor can detect objects in the way and bring it to a stop, to a smooth stop. Ford is blaming your kids for shopping cart mishaps, which seems a bit unfair. Children love to copy adults when they push a trolley to their minds. It's like they are behind the wheels of a car, with long, wide supermarket aisles as their racetracks. The company wrote. That's that's fair enough, but adults are just as likely to let a loaded cart roll away into a parked F-150 while they fumble with their keys. The video shows the system working to perfection, smoothly braking to prevent accidents with stacked fruit, hapless shoppers, and a Mustang. Let me play the video because I think that's more important. That's one of the most genius things I've seen produced this year. Um, what I'll say to that is my car has quite a few nicks in the bumpers, especially the rear bumper, because cars have run away inside Whole Foods and run right into the back of my car. Um, so I welcome the technology. Yeah, Joe Black, there should be no sound. So if you produce a video with sound, you'll end up getting flagged. So that's what we're trying to prevent. All right, this next one is from CNET.com. UPS will start using Toyota's zero-emission hydrogen semi-trucks. It's a part of a greater collaboration with Toyota, Kenworth, and Shell. Toyota's Project Portal, which brings a zero-emission hydrogen fuel cell tech to commercial trucks, has been graduating through various stages since the pilot program kicked off in 2017. Now it's ready to put some of these trucks to work with other companies. Toyota has Toyota announced this week that it has entered the next stage of Project Portal. The automaker has unveiled the latest version of its hydrogen fuel cell semi-truck, which was developed jointly with truck manufacturer Kenworth. This next step will see 10 examples of this truck being used for several companies' drayage operations in the Los Angeles area. This latest swath of zero-emission trucks is expected to start operations in the fourth quarter of 2019. Like previous iterations of Project Portal, the latest trucks rely on hydrogen fuel cell powertrain, which takes compressed hydrogen gas and converts it to electricity, with the only byproduct being portable water. The fuel stacks, which are borrowed from the Mirai hydrogen car, combined with a battery to provide a range north of 300 miles. With that, while that might not seem like all that much for a semi, it's important to note that drayage involves moving goods over short distances. Toyota says the range is about twice the average distance a truck of this kind can expect to travel in a single day. These 10 trucks will be split between a few different companies. 4 will end up with Toyota Logistics Services, which will help move Toyota products around ports in LA and Long Beach. 3 will go to UPS. 2 will end up with Total Transportation Services, and one will be in the hands of Southern Counties Express. I think this is it's very interesting. I like to see what happens out of all of this. What the reports look like in the next year or so. Lionel, you have anything you want to add to this?
I know I had to restart my computer. I had dropped off. I
Oh, okay.
caught the last part of it.
All right. All right. Joe Black in the chat asks, Mike, you think Ford using them for testing? I think he's referring to the shopping cart. My opinion on that, or my response to that, would be that they're only leveraging the technology that they already had. It's not like this is something groundbreaking. They just took the technology they already produced and they just applied it to a shopping cart. So little things like that actually go pretty far. So let me get to this next article because we got a lot on our docket. So. All right, this one is from Gizmodo.com. Elon Musk was right. Cheap cameras could replace LiDAR on self-driving cars, researchers find. It's a picture of the cameras. Among the many tidbits of wisdom that Elon Musk dropped at a Tesla company investor event on Monday was the revelation that LiDAR, a laser based scanning technology that images objects in 3D, was freaking stupid. And that anyone relying on LiDAR is doomed. But it seemed a grandiose claim given how many autonomous car initiatives rely on the tech. But Cornell researchers have just backed up Musk's predictions with a new method for self-driving cars to see the world in 3D using a pair of cheap cameras. Being able to visualize and detect objects around a vehicle in 3 dimensions is crucial for autonomous cars to safely operate in the world where roads are shared with other vehicles, cyclists, and other pedestrians. As a driver, every time you turn your head to scan what's around your car, your brain is instantly visualizing your surroundings in 3D and assessing potential hazards. Using cheap sensors to to simply detect objects near a self-driving car isn't enough. When it's cruising down the road at 60 miles an hour, it needs to see what's ahead and be able to plan for avoiding hazards. That's why you'll often see LiDAR, light detection and ranging systems or perch atop autonomous vehicles using spinning lasers that using spinning lasers. They scan a vehicle's surroundings and generate 3D images of objects near and far, allowing the software to analyze the results and pinpoint things to avoid. LiDAR's expensive, though often adding $10,000 worth of components to a car's price tag, and it needs to be perched atop a vehicle for the best vantage point. In the time when we are trying to maximize the range of both gas and electric vehicles, a LiDAR upgrade adds a lot of drag to the car's aerodynamics and its performance. In a paper that will be presented at the 2019 conference on computer vision and pattern recognition in June, pseudo LiDAR from visual depth estimation, bridging the gap in 3D object detection for autonomous vehicles, autonomous driving. Cornell researchers detail a potential breakthrough for autonomous vehicles. Cameras typically have been considered an inferior technology to LiDAR, given that they are often installed at low angles near a vehicle's bumper, resulting in images that tend to distort objects in the distance, which confuses neural networks trying to process and interpret the data. So what they've tried to do is basically put Google glasses on a car's wind visors or sun visors for that matter, which is a very slick move because you can get a whole lot done with that, which is something I never really thought about doing. And you could do it to the back window as well because it integrates right into the rear brake light.
So they're talking about using all pieces of glass that's on the vehicle as a camera also.
Hmm.
That don't sound bad. I know, like the article said with the LiDAR, it's the thing that's on top of the vehicle, always spinning at 360 degrees. Obviously, when autonomous vehicles come into play, you really don't want all autonomous vehicles to have that at the top. So the logical step is to integrate that
Hmm.
type of technology, not specifically LiDAR, but the technology, but the ability to see all around a car within the design of the car.
Hmm.
And in my opinion, that will make the autonomous capabilities of that car more reliable because it's able to see more of its surroundings than you as a human.
Hmm. I wanted to drop this one in the chat as well because I know we talk about EDX a lot. So I'm just sharing my screen right now because EDX actually has a program from a credit institution which focuses on emerging automotive technologies. Take your skills to the front line of automotive technology and become the engineer of the future. It says the automotive industry is changing in fundamental ways. Today, the internal combustion engine is increasingly complemented or even replaced with an electric motor. Vehicles are becoming more and more autonomous, creating an ever-increasing need for better software. Consequently, skilled automotive engineers are required to meet the demands of high-quality individual mobility and transportation of people and goods, especially when considering environmental challenges and the vision of zero accidents. So basically, let me see if I can pull it down. Oh, it says what you'll learn: design and simulate electric and hybrid powertrains, understand the fundamentals of passive and active safety concepts, model and simulate vehicle dynamics, implement intelligent perception and decision procedures needed for self-driving cars. The program actually starts on Wednesday, or Thursday, I should say. Sorry, Thursday. And it requires 6 to 8 weeks per course, 10 to 20 hours per week per course, and it's 7 courses. And the cost is $1,260, so $1,260. And I'm going to drop that in the chat for you guys. You know, Just Be You TV. Just Be You TV says in the chat, Repo Man won't be needed soon. Cars will just drive themselves back to the lot. The cars would actually just lock themselves. So if you did owe money on a car, you would basically have to put a few tokens in or crypto or something like that to actually get it to operate. If you don't have enough XRP or something like that, the car just won't move, and the doors will lock, and you would have to pay your way out.
They're doing that right now. I know there's this one place not too far from my house where they actually off Tuckahoe Road in Yonkers. They actually have a place where you can rent cars and so forth. But if you have that car over a certain period of time, or you drive over the time you have it, and they can't bill you for it, that car just shuts right off. They have a technology where it just shuts the engine down, and you can't do jack. So it won't shut you down while you're driving, but when you park it, bang, it's cut off.
If you take the key, if you turn it off just once, it won't work.
Yeah. And your cinnamon toast crunch. Pour some milk on you, man. You're done. So they've got a way to do that right now, which I find kind of interesting. I don't know exactly what technology they're using. I can actually find that out.
It's like a low jack. It's like a low jack.
Yeah. Very,
like
very
a low jack.
So
basically,
yeah,
it's connected to the car. It's connected to the car's main system, and it just tells us the car's main system to do not activate because it's based on GPS. But
okay.
I don't think anybody's gonna buy cars anymore. I think the way that these manufacturers are moving to is a more car sharing model. Audi has something called Audi Silver. BMW has a ride sharing program or car sharing program in Atlanta. Cadillac has one now. You pay like $2,000 for the year, and you can drive any Cadillac you want. Volkswagen's coming out with one. Porsche in Atlanta actually has one as well.
That's a fact because there's a program I just got from Cadillac. So I have a Cadillac. I leased a 2017 CTS, and that actually goes back. Was in 2017, so that goes back at the beginning of January of 2020, and I'll be out of that car, and they actually do have a program where you can drop that in, and you can pick up any car you want and drive it around. They have, I forget what they call alternative lease program. I have the brochure somewhere around here, but that's kind of how it's sounding. I quite frankly would rather be driven around these days instead of me driving. I kind of like that a lot more instead of just driving my car around. So that's and I told you, Mike, about my little problem with my eyes. So I don't particularly like driving sometimes. So I have a nice car, but at the end of the day, I don't drive it as much. So he's absolutely right about that. They do have that program being offered, and I myself am probably going to go for that. To be honest with you, I'm probably going to go for that. Yeah, that's a fact.
It's cheaper.
So yeah,
It's
it
cheaper.
definitely is. It definitely is. And the only thing you have to do is you have to carry insurance, just in case you crack up a vehicle. So you got a general insurance rider that you have on top of it. That's about it. That's it.
Well, they provide the insurance for you. So Liberty Mutual
Yeah.
is one of the insurance providers for that.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
provide it for you. That you're paying into it, but
That's right.
yeah, the car manufacturers are not moving enough vehicles to justify keeping them on lots. We have a Toyota right down the street in Boston, and they're using all the vacant lots they possibly can because they're overflowing with vehicles that they can't sell. They just can't move them. So what's happening here is they're offering any sort of deal possible, zero money down. One of the guys that I used to work with, he got a brand new Camry for $49 a month.
They're giving those cars away.
Yeah, they're giving them away. Giving them away. As long as yeah, go ahead.
Because my mom, she was telling me about she has a Toyota Camry, and she owns a car right now. I think it's a 2014 or something like that. And they're literally trying to just give her a car. And she's like, I don't think I want any of these payments. I'm pretty good. She's elderly, so she's not really driving around as much. And they're just trying to give her a car, man. Just trade this in and give it a car, and for some low dollars. And she was just telling me, I was on the phone talking with her just the other day. She was just breaking this down to me. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'll take a look further into what she's talking about. But yeah, Mike, you are right. I mean, you're right, man. I believe that is exactly what's going on. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Raining Woman says in the chat, say what? I think she's referring to me. To my previous statement. My coworker actually doesn't drive, but he needed a car because he had a child, so first child. So he didn't want to be out there in the stranded cold, so he went out and got a vehicle. And he found a deal on from Toyota for $49 a month with $1,000 down. You can't beat that. And they gave him a gas card to go with it. So you really can't beat that. You can't beat the deals now. All right, this next article is from Engadget.com. Penske debuts fast charging stations for electric delivery trucks. Today, Penske Truck Leasing opened 14 DC fast charging stations at 4 facilities in Southern California. According to the company, they are the first high-speed charging stations specifically designed for heavy-duty commercial electric vehicles in the U.S., and they'll be used to charge semi-trucks like Daimler Freightliners that Penske has been testing. For the most part, electric vehicle discussions center around passenger vehicles, but companies like Tesla, Daimler, and Cummins are working to electrify larger trucks, like big rigs. One of the pressing questions is how those companies will handle charging. Some have speculated that Tesla's first fleet will rely on customers like Pepsi and UPS to build on-site chargers. Networks of high-speed charging stations like Penske could help speed up the adoption of electric semis. We've talked about infrastructure before. The fourth industrial revolution and the infrastructure piece. This is a part of the infrastructure piece. A whole lot of opportunity is going to come out of developing this sort of infrastructure. So
Yeah, Penske, I this kudos to them because this is how
mhm,
this can be a not a reason, but a way for them to stay not relevant, but to gain revenue. Because with the more and more electric vehicles coming on the road, really the only in this country at least, the only prevalent electrical charging stations are Tesla. You know, they have. If you look at the Tesla map of their power stations, it's across the board. Now you have other, and this is the way this is going to go. You know, we should have seen this coming, but you have other businesses coming in and say, hey, you know, we're going to provide these charging stations also. And Penske,
mhm,
they this is a good move for them.
mhm. Yeah, you would think that U-Haul would have jumped on this, but you
Yeah.
know, Penske's always ahead of the curve, anyways. But or ahead of the curve of technology and of
And next thing you
the
know,
commercial trucking industry. Yeah.
they may have electric trucks in the future. Penske, if they're doing this, then I can see them having electric trucks in the future.
Yeah, I
Well,
can
that's
see
what
that.
the
I mean,
article said. They already adopted them.
I can see that Penske. You know, you're right. Penske, they've been a leader in automotive technology a long time. Because remember, they also have a racing factor to them. They actually
Hmm.
you know, they're in Indy and all that kind of stuff as well. They're on the top of technology of all kinds of transportation. So they definitely are a big player. And like I said, it's kind of interesting that you say that that U-Haul should have been on top of it. But wow, yeah, I would have thought that they would have been on top of that a lot earlier. But you know, it's the more progressive kind of companies that are out there that are that will take advantage of this. But that is interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
that Penske is out to a U-Haul. Very interesting. Very interesting point.
Yeah, we got to invest into this type of stuff.
Yes.
Lionel mentioned Tesla, but Tesla's supercharger stations are really made for Tesla cars. If you have a a CDL based vehicle, you won't be able to pull your vehicle up to that charger. So Penske jumping in on this jumped in at the right time in the right places because who else is going to have a Penske? If you've got a Penske truck that's electrified, you'll need to pull in, to a Penske charger. So it's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time for this type of stuff, And unfortunately, um, many other companies who are competitors to Penske didn't think about this before. We talked about it many times on here that charging infrastructure is going to be a part of that fourth industrial complex, and I see a lot of rundown gas stations in predominantly black neighborhoods that have been closed down for the last 20 years. Um, once the economy crashed and during the dot-com boom, they never really recovered themselves, especially in 2008. Um, a lot of those old gas stations didn't recover either. So now's the time for us to take advantage of um, those blighted parcels in our neighborhoods and actually convert them over and get ahead of the curve.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mhm. All right, let me get to the next one. All right, this next one is from Wired.com. Security news this week: hackers found a freaky new way to kill your car. This week in security, news began much as you expect. Still trying to make sense of the redacted Mueller report, which was released to Congress last. Man, the Mueller report, which was released to Congress late last week. Garrett M. Graff's takeaways. The report makes clear that Trump was worse than a useful idiot, along with 14 other insights you may have missed. Another horrific string of bombings left more than 300 people dead in Sri Lanka over the weekend. The government there blocked U.S. tech platforms in order to quell the spread of misinformation. Civil rights experts warn that despite the harmful role of social media has played in spreading violence and propaganda, this was the wrong move. All right, so hacker says he can remotely kill car engines via compromised GPS apps. Motherboard reports that a hacker going by the name of L&M claims to have hacked into 7,000 iTrack and 20,000 ProTrack accounts GPS tracking tools, and from there gained access to some vehicles' internal systems. The hacker says he could turn off cars' engines as they drove under 12 miles an hour or were stopped. On all the vehicles, he was able to track the cars as they drove. He got in by realizing that all users of those apps had been given the same default password. After brute forcing millions of usernames, he was in. Motherboard confirmed the breach with four people whose information L&M listed in a sample of the breach data he shared with the website. L&M says he did say sorry, he did this to show the companies how compromised their security is and that he never remotely turned off an engine. So I guess that's some comfort. So we just talked about this earlier, Nagone, that these companies have the ability to turn the vehicle off if you don't pay, right? If you're delinquent on your payments for your vehicle. Well, these are the actual systems that they were using.
I think he may be in the call. You are muted. He may be stepping away.
I think
So
he's away from his computer. I think he's. Go ahead.
okay. So if well, you hinted on numerous of times about passwords. People don't, let's say, diversify their passwords, make them strong enough. And now with this, he just brute forced simple passwords. And the article also pointed out that how he can hack your car going at a specific mile per hour, right?
Under 12.
Hmm. Wow. Cybersecurity is going to be really big in the future. Well, big. Well, it's already
It's already
big.
big now.
Yes, yes. How about I thought about what I said. It's already big now, but this is job security because even with this, I remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about the bumps in the road, people making the those pathways in the road to full autonomous vehicles. So in cybersecurity, well, it's going to be big in the future, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, this next one is from the Detroit Free Press. Here's how GM is leading the way as auto giants prep for a revolution. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll just go over the highlights. Can automakers walk and chew bubblegum at the same time? That's the challenge facing the world's giants, from General Motors and Ford to Volkswagen, Toyota, and Hyundai. How do they invest billions of dollars and countless hours of engineering and design talent in electric and self-driving vehicles that won't sell in meaningful numbers for years and simultaneously develop world-class cars and trucks customers will want until the mobility revolution comes, if it ever does? GM may be showing the way as it moves toward the goal of having electric powered autonomous vehicles in commercial service somewhere in the United States this year and selling a wide range of EVs around the world in their future. GM's approach: pay less attention to the vehicles people don't care about. The automaking equivalent of Elmore Leonard's famous instructions to writers: try to leave out the part that readers tend to skip. Ceasing to build slow selling, low profit vehicles like the Chevy Cruze and Impala frees resources for other things. Split product development into two channels. One focused on vehicles that will be built in high numbers for the next few years, and the other on vehicles and technologies that will hit their stride later. Eliminate the long-standing engine and transmission development group and make its responsibilities part of the vehicle engineering, a change that looks minor from the outside but constituted a seismic shift within GM. So they're preparing, they're preparing to get rid of these, these slow-selling cars that nobody seems to buy. People don't really care about, and things that are going to only advance them. And we've talked about these unwanted sedans. No people aren't lined up to buy, some of these unattractive vehicles.
Yeah, we handled that many times before. How Chevy's on um, the Impala, cutting the Impala, and these a couple of these sedans, and they're replacing those lines with EVs and in the future autonomous vehicles, and they're keeping the SUVs. And we've mentioned many times before how the best-selling vehicle, the vehicle best-selling vehicle in America is the Ford F-150, and these are big vehicles that people seemingly want to purchase. So I mean, these big car manufacturers know the numbers and they know what's ahead in the future. So they obviously common sense should tell them, like, should tell you, like, it told them that there's no need to keep manufacturing these cars that just sits on lot, that we have poor um, numbers in selling. We may as well
Mhm.
replace these with EVs and autonomous vehicles in the future.
Mhm. All right, this next one is from VentureBeat.com. Ford to deploy up to 100 autonomous cars by the end of 2019, expanding testing to third city. Ford intends to deploy upwards of 100 driverless vehicles by the end of 2019 and begin testing in a new city as it ramps up development of its autonomous technology. CEO Jim Hackett told investors during the company's Q1 2019 earnings call on Thursday. Hackett said that Ford is focusing on more complex environments with seasonal weather changes and intense metro challenges, rather than suburban areas where the roads don't change that often or freeways. We laughed at if autonomy was only destined for the LA freeways, you don't have to deal with the dogs and baseballs running across them, and no need to recognize that," said Hackett. He added, "We off we've opted into some difficult settings to prove this capability." Earlier this month, Hackett, who formerly led Ford's autonomous vehicle division, admitted during a speech at the Detroit Economic Club that the car maker had only been ambitious in its plans to rapidly scale its self-driving efforts. He reiterated that Ford's on track to launch a driverless car fleet in 2021, but said that it's likely to be geo-fenced and that the applications will be narrow because the problem with self-driving is still too complex. Ford has a close relationship with Pittsburgh-based driverless technology startup Argo AI, which it pledged to invest $1 million in over the next 5 years. Argo is currently testing autonomous cars in Miami and Detroit, with plans to expand tests to Washington, D.C. in the coming months, and it obtained a permit to drive its self-driving cars on California roads. Argo system, which comprises which comprises sensors like cameras, radars, and lidar, in addition to software and a bespoke compute platform, is one of the two core projects. The other is creating and maintaining high definition maps of the roads on which the cars will drive. In November, Ford unveiled a collaboration with Postmates to deliver food, personal care items, and other everyday goods from Walmart stores in Miami-Dade County. This came months after the company launched a delivery program, albeit a non-autonomous one, with Postmates in Miami and Miami Beach, Florida. The latter pilot lets consumers order goods from local businesses. Orders are delivered via Ford Transit Connect cars sporting multiple storage lockers, speakers, and touchscreens. This is interesting because you don't put, they're talking about 2021 being the go date for them.
They're saying
2021 being the go date for a full fleet of autonomous, based vehicles. So it's not that far away.
As we're reading more and more of these articles, we see the transition from Ford seeing the future, admitting that the future is autonomous and we need to catch up with these other car manufacturers in the autonomous circle, to them then purchasing a company that focuses on autonomy and autonomous vehicles, to them integrating that business into their business and pushing this autonomous note. Now, me personally, I don't think that. Me personally, 2021 is very short with the infrastructure. Yeah, you have the autonomous vehicles there, but the infrastructure is lagging. So how strong will these autonomous cars be with the infrastructure absent from helping them be there? If you understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, they
The
can,
cars are autonomous for a reason.
right, but I just think 2021 is too soon to have. Yeah, they're gonna come, but in my mind, 2021 is being very liberal. Not very liberal, but being a little liberal.
Hmm.
I'm not saying
Well,
autonomous vehicles are not ready or anything, but I'm just saying that's 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 a fast turnaround, in my opinion.
it is, but then it isn't. It's a 3-year cycle. So 3 to 5 year cycles is pretty common. So if they're saying 2021, and we're probably talking about, they probably started going into this around 2015, 2016. By 2017, 2018, they were probably already, full stack engineered and ready to go in terms of the development process. And you're talking about a launch time of 2021. That's actually a pretty reasonable date, or a time frame, I should say, for deployment. Now, it's not going to go out in high numbers, but it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be application specific. So you'll probably see more state governments adopt these vehicles. You know, your your surveyors and other civil engineer, or sorry, I shouldn't say civil engineering, but your more government applications is really where it's going to take place. Uh, your sanitation people that work for the government and things like that, they're going to be the first ones to adopt it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not going to deploy it without some form of adoption. So they probably have orders already in place.
So those those how am I trying to say this? Those civil workers, city workers, not workers, but vehicles would be the um, infrastructure. The build around. Okay, now we have these everyday vehicles and autonomy. Now it's time to go to people who purchase cars.
Not necessarily people who purchase cars, but ride sharing programs. So
Mm,
your Lyft and your Ubers and stuff like that, they'll be the ones to start adopting those vehicles.
okay.
All right, this next one is from Engadget.com. Zipline expands medical drone deliveries to Ghana. Vaccines for polio, tetanus, and diphtheria will be airdropped to remote locations within 30 minutes. While the jury on consumer drones is still out, unmanned aerial vehicles (UAVs) are fast becoming an important tool in global delivery networks. Take Zipline as a prime example. Since 2016, the California company has used unmanned aircraft to deliver critical medicines and blood to hospitals over huge distances in Rwanda. According to the Financial Times, the Silicon Valley startup is drastically expanding its presence in Africa, mobilizing what will become the world's largest drone delivery network to transport 150 different medicines, vaccines, and blood to 2,000 clinics in remote parts of Ghana. Vaccines for polio, tetanus, and um, whatever the other one is, all of which are supplied by the World Health Organization's Expand project on immunization, will be some of the treatments made available to Ghanaian clinics or clinicians as part of the expansion. Health workers will be able to place an order via text message and receive a delivery via parachute within 30 minutes. The range of the Zip drone hasn't changed much over the past 2 years, averaging around 160 kilometers. With the aircraft is swift, however, reaching speeds of 110 kilometers per hour. Given that local hospitals often lack often lack adequate supplies of critical treatments, Zipline can provide a service that doesn't require new infrastructure or setting up new supply routes. With this, what this is going to show is that you can reach every GPS coordinated. You can serve everybody. Zipline CEO Keller Ronaldo told the Financial Times. Every human in the region or country can be within a 15 to 25-minute delivery of any essential medical product. It's a different way of thinking about universal coverage. How did we let some guys from Silicon Valley get into Africa and provide a solution like this? I know you have any answers to that. How did this happen?
I don't think people like my answer. Um, I think as Black people, we all in general, not specific, everyone. We all have a well in general as a group, we have a uh, uh, how should I say it? I think African people, continental African people, and not just them, just Black people. Period.
Mhm.
If white people say we don't know this, then they're more susceptible to saying okay. Then if Black people do it, say the same thing, then there's a lot, not a lot, but there are some, and to a varying degree, skepticism, questions, doubt. So I will say that played into it. That may not be the end all, but that played into it because it was quick. It seemed quick. What we covered on our channel, it just seemed coming. This seems to come out of nowhere.
DE, do you have anything you want to add to this? Can you hear me, Lino?
Hey, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Nicole, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, that's right now, no.
Well, I'll answer my own question then. Basically, the reason why something like this can happen, where uh, some guys from Silicon Valley can provide a solution to the continent that we should be managing ourselves, is because we spent too much time on hangouts talking about Pookie and Ray Ray. We should have been putting some work in, really talking about some 3.0 manosphere compliance.
Well,
That,
that
that's
too.
that's what happened.
That too. That too. I mean, we all
For
have
sure.
our fault in this, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, that too.
Instead of having reptiles, sit on panels and
Oh my gosh, so true. So true. Boy.
these incel mafia, the reptilians. Maybe Alex Jones was onto something a few years ago, and he said the lizard people and the reptiles, and they're gonna get you and all this other stuff. He wasn't that far off, man. So,
Oh boy.
but I take blame in this as well. I take blame in not partaking in the development of the continent. But I'm not a reptile though, so don't blame me.
Mm.
Let me get to this next. Let me get to this next item on the docket. We're actually making good timing, so. Q47 says, "What about the fact that Africans believe the white man's ice is colder?" Um, that's a coincidence because there's a brother in the chat whose name is My Ice is Colder. Maybe you should ask him. He might have an answer for you. All right, next one is from Engadget.com. NASA's Cassini data shows Titan's lakes are stranger than we thought. NASA's Cassini spacecraft made its fateful plunge into Saturn's atmosphere in 2017, but scientists are still using the data it sent home to make surprising discoveries. Two papers published in Nature Astronomy reveal new information about the lakes on Titan, Saturn's biggest moon. The small liquid lakes in Titan's northern hemisphere are more than 100 meters deep, perched atop plateaus and filled with methane. They also appear to be seasonal, and the bodies of liquid on one side of the northern hemisphere are completely different than those on the other side. Scientists knew the moon's larger northern seas were filled with methane, but they were surprised to find the smaller leaks or the smaller lakes are mostly made of methane. New radar measurements confirmed the lakes are just tens of miles wide, but more than 100 meters deep. They sit on plateaus hundreds of feet above the surrounding landscape. They are also shallow lakes that seem to come up and go with the seasons, which are much longer. Given that it takes almost 30 Earth years for Titan to travel around the sun. and the lakes on Titan's eastern side of the on eastern side are vastly different than the big seas with low elevation canyons and islands on Titan's western side. Lionel, what do you think about this? I know that's just the artist's image, right? NASA's image of what they think it looks like.
First, as a okay, I'll look at this in two ways. As a person that's fascinated with space, then learning about the different celestial objects in our solar system is marvelous. Um, these moons of Saturn and therefore Jupiter are planet size. These things are huge. Um, so this is absolutely great. Now, then you look at it in terms of okay, they were able to identify these changing lakes and plateaus, the how the terrain is formed. The lakes are methane. So imagine lakes that's free flowing on Earth, like in the upper Yukon of Canada, just fresh, pristine lakes, and just lakes, period. But instead of water, it's just methane. That goes to show that these different planets and celestial bodies in our solar system have are made differently. Not that they are made of some type of exotic things, but they're made of the same things as Earth, but they may be in more abundance of other things. Earth. You on Titan, and you say, well, Earth is have these vast lakes that flow from south to north, and there's one lake that flow north to south to north, and they're H2O, and you're like, wow. But to look at it in more of a capitalistic mind frame, this is resources. This
I,
the
I was ju- I was just getting to that. That's why I asked you
Yeah.
the question because now
yeah,
you're talking about a whole entire planetoid that is sitting there with resources that are in abundance that you can be used as a gas station to actually fill up and go.
Yeah,
right,
that's a fact. You're talking about almost an endless supply. Because if you're looking at just one lake that may be 100 meters down, over 300 feet, if we're talking about in feet, that's what you're looking at. This is amazing. And that's one lake. How many are on such a moon that where we have a water-based system? They have a methane-based system. And who was also to say, let's be frank about this, and I'm just not trying to, go into some or in the left field here, but there could be, who knows, some kind of life-based um, life-based system, organism that could live and eat and live off of methane. We do have them certainly here, and we do have other bacteria that live in sulfur environments and so forth. So, um, who knows? Who knows what else is there? But from the resource perspective, wow, that could be you could have an endless source, endless. And I
right.
think
Oh, go
and I,
ahead.
and I think that's where some of the people who are looking at going into space are looking at various planetoids, moons, and even asteroids, where some asteroids may be floating around that are solid diamonds, diamond-based stuff,
Hmm.
and other very not so much rare, because diamonds are not rare on Earth either. They're not rare. They've been
You
made
got
rare, but
yeah,
we do have other areas of space that we could mine for with
right. You have like Titan is a little bit bigger than Earth. That's
yeah,
my thing. But the asteroids you're talking about in the asteroid belt,
yeah,
they're carbon based. You
yeah,
have asteroids that have the platinum group metals.
that's
You
right,
have asteroids that have iron ore on them that just strictly iron.
that's right,
Then you have when you go out past, okay, you have Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. Then you have the Kuiper Belt, and then beyond that, you have the Oort cloud. These are where
Yep.
comets are at, and these
Yep.
comets are not our ice. Comets are ice. Asteroids are, like rock because they're closer to the sun. But these are things you can mine that have material in them in our own solar system. Our own solar system is so rich, and it's a lot of it's a lot of resources to be mined as the, conquering this one solar system can bring untold riches. Someone was saying how the outside of um, um, Mansa Musa, the richest person in the world is J.D. Rockefeller, and he got rich off of natural resources. Well, people are comparing that to asteroid mining, and you don't have to go out to the asteroid belt to mine asteroids. You can mine asteroids in low Earth orbit, but people comparing that. Well, if he got rich off resources, natural resources, then the next frontier of natural resources are these asteroids, and they
Yeah.
can bring untold riches.
And people are talking, and that's what some major corporations and so forth are looking at right now. With respect to these space programs. So that's the next phase. I believe in space travel is not just going to be going to Mars and seeing if you can find some Martians or even going to Titan. Somebody mentioned here in the chat about that movie Titan, where
Like,
they had
yeah.
the human. I think it was Humanus Titanus or something, where they changed the man into a being to live on Titan. But besides all that, but seriously, really going out here and for strictly very hardcore economic industrial reasons, to really go out here and start to mine space. That's definitely going down. That's already in the works. Where people are planning this for sure. And the moon might even be a way station. Who knows? There's a lot of plans. There's people have some fairly big ideas with respect to this. We need to be thinking about this as well.
Yeah, we covered an article last week about a space startup in China that has a 20-man team that basically put their first reusable rocket into flight. It only flew, or it only launched a few feet off the ground, but they were able to get it off and get it back down safely. So that's a sign that space startups are starting to come down in cost. So the exponential cost of what SpaceX costed and Blue Origin and these other ones, these other big tier one um, space ventures has come down considerably, probably to the few $1 million. We saw that Tariq Nasheed actually raised $100,000 this week, for a documentary. We got to start thinking about how do we invest, how do we crowdfund, a startup like a startup like this into something that's going to be formidable for the future.
Facts, absolutely.
All right, let me get to this next article from NASA.gov. NASA's InSight lander captures audio of first likely quake on Mars. The first seismic signal detected by the lander's seismic experiment for interior structure (SIS) instrument was recorded on April 6th, the lander's 128th Martian day. This is the first recording trembling that appears to have come from inside the planet, as opposed to being caused by forces above the surface, such as wind. Scientists still are examining the data to determine the exact cause of the signal. So, you know, I find it interesting that Mars is supposed to be, the core is supposed to be not so much as frozen, but not active, in a not active
Mhm.
state. And you're telling me you're hearing rumblings, inside inside the planet's core. I don't know.
Yeah, earthquakes come from the tectonic plates shifting past one another. So when they shift past one another, they grind against one another, and that those vibrations result in earthquakes.
But let's be frank. When we start to look at
Oh, we know that
um,
guy.
Uh, that's funny.
let's be frank. Shout out to my boy. Let's be frank. LBF. Shout out to my boy. But at the same time, we really don't know a lot of. We can say that we have Earth tectonics, plate tectonics that exist here. When we start to look at other planets, things might be great. Far different. We don't know if there's rumblings going on that planet, which we can obviously hear. Then maybe their system of tectonics there might be somewhat different. We have Valles Marineris up there on that planet. It seems to, run almost, halfway around the planet, and it's something like 4 or 5 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. So, what would cause something like that on that planet? We can see that very large and tremendous, uh, you know, um, structural feature on the planet now. So we really don't know. I mean, we can say there are a lot of things, but does plate tectonics that exist here on Earth, does it apply? Could a different type of system exist on a different planet that might operate a little bit differently? We have a very strong magnetic field and so forth here on this planet where Mars does not. So I mean, who knows what could
They say
potentially
it's
be
because
going
of
on in the
stress.
planet. It could be,
Yeah, they say it's because of
Torsten.
stress because they don't have tectonic plates, right? So
Mhm.
it could be like a lung, right? Oh, it's constantly expanding itself. But
What, what,
why would it expand itself, right? So it's nothing
could it be the
going on up there.
moons? Could it be the moons pulling it, Torch? I
No,
mean,
no.
what
Mars
could it be?
moons are,
Yeah,
are
they're very
aren't
small.
big enough. They're
Yeah,
very
they're very
small.
small.
But
They're very small.
we only have what we know on Earth
Correct.
we only know Earth. Just like
That's right.
astronomical units are a measurement between Earth and the sun. That's what the things we learn on Earth is what we have to guide us in terms
Right.
of identifying what else these terrestrial planets or celestial bodies are. We
Mm.
only know Earth. Our measurements are from Earth. We don't. That's all we know of.
Yeah.
So when we hear rumblings on Titan, not Titan, but Mars,
Mars.
when we hear rumblings on Mars, then we say, well, okay, that's maybe what guiding, well, coming from our understanding of rumblings on Earth, it could mean this, therefore it could
That's
mean
right.
that, and therefore it can mean that.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I understand, and I do agree with you. A lot of these celestial bodies may have different makeups, well, not makeups, but different ways of doing
Their
things.
geology might be different.
Right, right
How
there.
things
The
move. Yeah.
geology might be different, and
Yeah.
yes, that's totally true.
Mm.
Every celestial body is a cookie cutter or representation of Earth, but that's all we have to go about. And until
Mm.
we go to Mars and say, well, this is different, that's all we have to go about. But I will not say that because this earthquake, then it's this is this it that means that it's not nothing other than tectonic plates move together, and therefore the core is this and nothing else. With our only understanding of that comes from Earth.
Yeah, and one of the things, tectonic plates, you can see the movement floats in many respects on on let's say an ocean of magma, if you will, um,
Hmm.
and you see a lot of volcanism. We have volcanism here on this planet. Do we see the same level of volcanism on Mars that we see here? It doesn't seem that we do, but my understanding was they did see a volcano
Yeah,
kind of
supposedly it was one. Yeah.
yeah, that erupted there. So who knows what's going on, on some of these other planets? It's a tremendous mystery. We just don't know, and it would be certainly great to get a lot more information on that. That would be great. But hearing rumblings and sounds like that going on inside of Mars, wow, that's rather interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let me get
The
you the
way our
next one.
solar system is
Oh,
built,
go ahead, D.
the way our solar system is built, we have to have plate tectonics. All the planets, all the moons, it has to be there because
Why would you say so? Why would you make
because
such a bold statement?
because our sun,
Okay.
because just our sun, and then you have like if you look at the moon Titan, you got to ask where is the fluid coming from? How is it made? You understand? What kind of light?
Well, it seems like the environment, the atmosphere, a lot of things could create that. For you to make the statement that it has to be this, I would deeply have to disagree with you. I don't
Well,
think it has to be that at all.
You're
well,
It
for,
could
saying,
be it could be a much different system. So I don't agree with any of what you're saying, but that could be the case. I happen to disagree vehemently.
but
well,
when you
oh, go
say
ahead.
it come from the atmosphere, sorry, Miguel. When
Mhm.
you say it's coming from the atmosphere, take Earth for instance. What we know about Earth, we can look at Earth and say, rain comes from the clouds, but how do the clouds get in the atmosphere? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And the other thing is that
there, there,
you
there are a
got a
lot of different
larger
reasons.
object.
There are a
This
lot of different reasons as to why that situation could happen. There are a lot of different reasons as to why that comes about. There's not one simple single reason to do that because the scientists and the experts haven't fully figured this out. So I don't see where you where you're coming from with that statement. I mean, you can make it, but I'm just trying to figure out how are you coming to that.
scientists tell you a lot of things, and scientists hide a lot of things.
Well, what are they hiding that you have some rather
You have you
higher level of insight on it? I'd be very interested to hear that.
take for instance our Earth itself. Earth is affected by all the other planets in our solar system, not just our moon. It is. We know it is fact.
Really?
And you got,
What are those facts? Could you break some of those facts down?
our gravity is affected by every planet in our solar system. When Jupiter moves between the sun and Earth, it affects the Earth movement.
How does it affect Earth movement? Because
It
Earth,
wobbles. The Earth wobbles.
Earth movement is more affected by the moon that's around it and the gravitational type of how would I say shape that is pulled on, that's pulled on from the sun because the sun has a certain level of mass and we are caught in that kind of motion around the sun because of the sun's mass. Now, where does Jupiter come in and play a role in affecting how the Earth moves in its elliptical orbit? I would,
Because it
I
is
happen to be
another.
very knowledgeable of this, so I would like to
It is
understand.
a body, and it's larger than Earth, and it
It's
has
it's larger than Earth. It's larger than Earth. Okay, but the sun has much more mass. Sun is much more
I understand.
massive,
The,
and
no,
Jupiter
you
is a
asked the
gas planet.
question. You know,
All right. Just go ahead. Because
you answer the
I'm not
question,
following your
then you
reasoning.
give me an answer for So I mean, I
Go ahead.
I think think his
Hello.
connection dropped. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
I can hear you. I can hear you guys. I think his connection dropped. Let me jump to this next article because we only have so much time left. All right, this next one is from physics.org. The giant galaxy around the giant black hole. On April 10th, the Event Horizon Telescope unveiled the first ever image of a black hole's event horizon, the area beyond which light cannot escape the immense gravity of the black hole. The giant black hole, with a mass of 6.5 billion suns, is located in the elliptical galaxy Miser 87 M87. EHT is an international collaboration whose support in the U.S. includes the National Science Foundation. The image from NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope shows the entire M87 galaxy in infrared light. The EHT image, by contrast, relied on light and radio wavelengths and showed the black hole's shadow against the backdrop of high energy material around it. Located about 55 million light years from Earth, the M87 has been a subject of astronomical study for more than 100 years and has been imaged by many NASA observatories, including the Hubble Space Telescope, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and NuSTAR. In 1918, astronomer Heber Curtis first noticed a curious straight ray extending from the galaxy's center. The bright jet of hot. Mute you to go.
Oh, what's that?
I had to mute you. There's a lot of feedback coming from you.
Is feedback coming from me? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me move it up. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's all right. This bright jet of high energy material produced by a disk of material spinning rapidly around the black hole is visible in multiple wavelengths of light, from radio waves through X-rays. When the particles in the jet impact the interstellar medium, the sparse material filling the space between stars and M87, they create a shockwave that radiates in infrared and radio lengths of light, but not visible light. In the Spitzer image, the shockwave is more prominent than the jet itself. So, Lionel, you have any opinion you want to provide to this?
Not any heavy opinion. As it's interesting that they found that. Ouch! Pinch myself. It's interesting that they found a giant galaxy next to this giant uh, black hole. Um, yeah, like I said, not too much heavy commentary on this one. It is interesting. Yeah.
That big telescope you seen the light from Celestron, will go
Hey,
perfectly.
I don't think that thing can look at this one. That's what they needed well, all the telescopes that they combined. Um, they combined a lot of powerful telescopes just to see that black hole, to get that image of the black hole. And you telling me there's another galaxy? Well, galaxies are prevalent, but there's a galaxy near it. I don't think I would need a few giant telescopes to see this galaxy.
I was interested because I was waiting to see they were going to do this one channel was going to do a live stream on them, supposed to be where they were actually going to for the first time get a picture or film of a black hole. And I waited for the live stream to come, but I didn't see it. So I didn't see it even came up with a picture of a black hole. Were they able to image one?
Yeah, what happened was they didn't see the black hole per se.
Mm-hmm.
What they saw was the light that was being reflected, not reflected, but the light that was being bent from the black hole and sucked in. That light outlined the black hole. So therefore, you saw the black hole, and the way the light was bent around it was being stretched around it. Yeah, stretched around it. It formed that black hole, that the circularness of that black hole, because once light go into it, you really can't see it. It's just
Yeah, and the
set
black hole
outside. Right.
would have the ability to bend light. Mike, would you happen to have a picture of that? Would you be able to pull a picture of that up?
Of the black hole.
Of what Lionel just described?
I think we just saw it on the screen. It was an
Did
image
we?
of it.
Could you show that image
Yeah.
one more time? I'm sorry, I missed it. I don't know if you could show it one more again.
All right.
I got it. Let me see. Oh, you got it. All right.
Yeah, the manosphere has a lot of black holes, so you have to be a little specific when you. Make sure you stay 3.0 compliant.
Could you blow it up a
avoid
little
those places.
Right.
Could you blow it up, man?
Oh, that.
Oh my God.
I can show a clearer picture. If
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you show a clear? You have a clearer picture of it on Lionel?
Right. Let me share.
This was what I find. So all of Einstein's all of his predictions
This is
were
it right
actually
here.
correct.
Right.
Where?
So right where my cursor's at. So the event horizon
Is the event horizon
outlined the black hole. You have all this light. And from what my understanding is, the closest accurate depiction of a black hole before they actually got this picture was from the movie Interstellar.
Yeah. And it's Interstellar. It said Interstellar was scientifically very
Right.
was very accurate.
They actually brought on scientists to help them create that image of a black hole, but that's the closest image that you other than this black hole. So you got the event horizon around there and then extends all the way around here. So the light, when it gets sucked up in here, you're really not seeing that. So the bright light just outlined the hole.
And this is a veritable. This is not this is a picture. This is a photograph. Is that correct?
Right. This is a picture. This is not an artist rendition. This is the picture.
So everything that Einstein said was correct. So this is amazing. This is
Right.
an amazing. This is an amazing picture. This is an amazing.
Because
picture.
Because at the beginning you thought you couldn't. People thought you couldn't.
You couldn't image it, but it does
Right.
make sense that any light that would come around it would be bent. That would be bent around. That would be bent around that hole because it would bend light. It would bend it. But with this immense, incredible, unbelievable mass, that's the only thing that can bend light. Wow, it's kind of scary to see that because those suckers moving around anywhere. You get close to the Earth, something like that gets close to the Earth, you're finished. You're going into a hole, but
Oh, he's finished.
Oh, he finished. Highly finished.
Yeah, so I want to show people the movie Interstellar black hole. Let me share my screen one more time. So this is Interstellar, the movie Interstellar with what's the guy name?
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. This is like their rendition of the black hole, and this is the closest.
Fairly close, fairly accurate.
Yeah, this is the closest. Only because they brought on scientific experts to help them, their artists, do that.
It's fairly close. So this black hole was found at the center of this galaxy?
Not this galaxy. It was found in the center of M87 or Messier 87 galaxy. It's another galaxy that's, I don't know how many light years away, but it's not the next galaxy close to us. Next galaxy close to us is the Andromeda galaxy. But
Right.
this was found in M87, Messier 87 galaxy. So it was found at that center, at the center of that galaxy.
I wonder if that could potentially emit a pulsar light or something like that. I'd be very interested to know that because that would be a rather dangerous side effect or something like that. Yeah, especially if we have a black hole at the center of our galaxy as well, which I don't know if every galaxy has a black hole at the center of it, but it would seem that might be the case. Don't know. But that's what a lot of scientists are speculating.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with my astrophysics intellect is somewhat limited. I'm still learning, but I don't know if every galaxy has a black hole at the center.
But we do know there's some brothers in the manosphere who do have a Galaxy Note from Samsung. But it takes you down a black hole. Well, let me get to the next article.
My God, Mike.
Oh man.
Jesus, my God. Oh my gosh, I put myself on mute, man. I gotta.
Feels good to be a sapiosexual. Anyways, let me get to popularmechanics.com. Dark matter scientists observed the rarest event in history. A dark matter detector in Italy has observed a once in a billion lifetimes event. Researchers at the Xenon Dark Matter Observatory have spotted something incredibly rare. Unfortunately, it's not dark matter, but it's not the next best thing. But it's the next best thing. The detectors at the observatory have spotted the decay of Xenon 124, the rarest event ever recorded in human history. The Xenon experiment is designed to detect dark matter, which is not an easy task. The reason that dark matter is so mysterious is that it pretty much never does anything, which makes it hard to spot. Dark matter doesn't give off light or have any sort of magnetic field, and it almost never interacts with normal matter in any way. To even have a chance at seeing the effect of a dark matter particle, scientists have had to come up with a bunch of outlandish experiments. One of these is the Xenon Observatory, which is essentially a giant tank containing 3.5 tons of liquid xenon sitting in a laboratory nearly a mile underground. The experiment uses xenon because it's one of the most stable elements in the universe. Pretty much nothing reacts with xenon, especially a mile underground, making it the ideal dark matter sector. After all, dark matter reacts with xenon as it reacts with anything else. So the xenon team can crank the sensitivity on their equipment to 11, which hasn't been able to find dark matter just yet. It was just enough to spot the decay of xenon 124 atom. Xenon 124 is a radioactive isotope that takes about 1.8 sextillion years to decay on average. Sextillion. I have never heard of that before. You ever heard of that before, Lino? A sextillion?
Repeat that one more time. Oh yeah,
Have you ever heard
sextillion.
of that number?
I think it's okay. You have million, billion. Okay, million, billion, trillion, quintillion. No, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, and then you have sextillion, which is sextillion. So it's pretty high up there.
Sounds like a hood rat.
Yeah.
That's about 130 billion times longer than the lifespan of the entire universe until now.
Oh,
The
shit.
Xenon 124 atom decay is, shall we say, uncommon. Oh man, these hangouts are crazy.
Well, you do know that you start getting into bigger numbers like 6 trillion, and then you started getting into a Google. That's where you got Google from. A Google is like supposed to be like a real number. I think that's
Yeah,
10.
it is.
It's 10 to the
Yeah.
32nd or some power like that. Yeah.
I thought it was a gaggle.
No, it's actually a Google. A gaggle.
Nah,
Well,
I
gaggle
think
something
it's
a little bit.
pronounced. I think the number Google is pronounced differently than that. They got it from there, but I think they're pronouncing it differently.
No,
Like,
no, no, no. They pronounce
Okay.
it Google. Carl Sagan and Carl Sagan used to talk about that. You know,
okay,
in his masterpiece that he made called Cosmos. You know, if
yeah,
anybody could, and
Google.
if anybody could ever, get that series and replay it, that would be worthwhile to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting you say sextillion because, like I said, the one before that is quintillion. You have these
Yeah,
asteroids
yeah.
worth 25 quintillion, 7 quintillion, 3 quintillion because of the natural resources on them. They're worth that type of money, and a trillion is a million million. So, uh, quadrillion is gotta be like god damn, I want to say a million billion,
No, no,
but
no, no. Quadrillion is 4 billion trillion. That's what you're talking about.
well,
These are
wait,
astronomical numbers.
4 trillion billion or 4 billion trillion? It should be four
It's
trillion billion.
it's a billion trillion. So it's a
right, a
billion
billion
times a
trillion,
trillion.
right?
Yeah,
It's a billion trillion
it's like 10 to
because
the
it takes 1,000 billion to get it to a
trillion.
trillion, 1,000
So it'd
trillion
be
to get to a
10 to the 30th or something like that.
right.
It'd be some giant fucking some giant ass number. Some giant
A
ass number.
giant ass number where on top of that, ain't nobody gonna print out that much money. You're not gonna have an asteroid, astronaut going to space with a wad of tens, going to this money supply got to go digital. You're not about to do that, man. Imagine shooting a ship out of Earth's atmosphere filled with and the payload is like a bunch of $100 bills. No, this shit is not this not gonna happen like that, man. So yeah, you know, but yeah, these are astronomical numbers, man. This is like, thinking about these numbers will put you to sleep, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people in the manosphere who have, a Google of kids.
Yeah,
I mean, some brothers out here. There's some brothers out here
Mike,
that are being
Mike,
perked to squirt. That are being
Mike,
perked to squirt. Could be Robert Sextillion.
oh man.
Mike, Mike,
Oh my god, that's funny.
ah, ah. Oh, let me get off of this shit. Let me get up off of this, man. Let me get up.
Uh, uh, uh.
Oh man. Shout out to Raining Woman. We got to get her on the panel one day, or go to her panel or something. We got to do something. All right, this next one is from Gizmodo.com. Hubble measurements confirm there's something weird about how the universe is expanding. New results from the Hubble telescope have deepened one of the biggest mysteries in astronomy. Astronomers know that the universe is expanding and the expansion is accelerating. Sometimes you'll hear news stories claim that the universe is expanding faster than we thought, but that's not quite what's going on. The rate of the expansion, called the Hubble constant, is the subject of an important discrepancy. Its value changes based on how scientists try to measure it. New results from the Hubble telescope have now raised the discrepancy beyond a plausible level of chance, according to a paper set to be published in the Astrophysical Journal. As the space between the stars and galaxies grows, scientists have devised several ways to measure the rate of expansion. One method calculates the expansion based on the farthest radiation that our experiments can see, called the cosmic microwave background. Others have used information from supernova to calculate the rate. Both of those methods have measured an expansion rate of around 67.7 kilometers per second per megaparsecond. meaning for every 3.26 million light years, the universe is expanding another 67.7 kilometers per second faster. But other measurements don't agree. Scientists using the Hubble Space Telescope recalculated the Hubble constant with the help of recent high accuracy measurement of the distant to a nearby satellite galaxy called the Large Magellanic Cloud, as well as new observations of 70 Cepheid variables, a kind of pulsating star. Cepheids' pulsation rate and brightness are closely enough related that their distance can be calculated. Combined with other improvements, they calculated the universe's expansion at 74 kilometers per second per mega per second. Basically, when scientists look farther away, the universe seems to be expanding more slowly than when they look at the local universe. You know, there's one thing I'll say about this article is that the Hubble telescope is supposed to be like what 30 years old, and it's still doing amazing things, man. And a
I,
lot of the technology is a lot of the technology is very dated on it.
the Hubble telescope is not even looking at, and I agree with you, but the Hubble telescope, when I look at the sky, it's looking at small sections of the galaxy, very small sections of the galaxy. It's ridiculously small. And I mentioned this to you before. I don't know if I mentioned this on the channel, but when people look at, say, the universe, and people say, "Well, this is the universe," and it's always this oval shaped, you know, um, it's an oval shaped picture, but that's the observable universe. That means that I'm trying to find an image so I can really show people that what that the universe. You see the universe picture, but what that means is it's the observable universe. And come on, man. Okay, okay. Let me share my screen. Uh, Give people a visualization. Okay, here we go. So you got this picture right here. This is the universe, the most detailed 3D map of the universe. But this is only, well, so it would lead you to believe that everything outside this line is not the universe. These black areas are not the universe. But that's not true. This is the observable universe. They're
That's
still,
that's
huh,
exactly correct. No, you're hitting
it,
it. That's exactly
right.
correct.
It's still universe outside this line. It's just that it takes light so long to hit Earth that when we look, as this is as far we can see outside this universe.
And
That's it.
you might want to add on that the universe that we can see is still expanding.
Right.
So at the speed of light that we can look at right now, that travels at a certain speed, and that travels at 186,000 miles per second. Or if we were to put that into a year, it travels 6 trillion miles in 1 year, which is an immense distance. Um,
Right. And
we,
it
we,
still take billions of years just to get to us.
we can image about as far as about 5 billion years into the universe from what we can see, and we still see structures there as well. So even when we are trying to age the universe by looking at the Big Bang, taking it from like an explosion and seeing how fast the universe might be expanding, and like an explosion that expands at 300 feet per second or something of that nature. Um, we're trying to literally count back to see where this thing starts. We can't even really get a very accurate view on that, just
Right.
because light is traveling at a certain speed. We're only getting a certain amount of information back from the speed of light. What a telescope in many respects is almost like a time machine. So we're getting light that's
It is.
coming
It
back.
is.
We're getting light that's coming back from maybe just about 5 billion light years. You have to understand how immense this is, and we're still getting more in. So I don't know if we'll ever be able to totally image the universe unless we come up with a science that gives us the ability to travel at a faster than light speed.
I
Of
mean,
which
our, I
there,
mean,
there are
our,
those who are suspecting
it,
that we might be able to do this, but I don't know if we
it
can.
takes 8 minutes for sunlight to hit our eyes from the sun. So
90, and
what
that's
we're
90, and that's 93 million miles away.
right, 92.86 million miles away, 93
Yeah,
million miles away. So it takes. So what when we're looking at the sun, we're looking at the sun 8 minutes ago.
yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at. That's exactly what we're looking at. And the whole time dilation thing. I mean, Einstein didn't go into that deeply. I'm very familiar with this. I was tutoring kids on some of this last year, which unbelievably, some of these young kids can pick some of this stuff up. But anyway, yeah, this is some deep stuff. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we're making a lot of comments. I think a lot of people trying to say we understand certain things and we know, but man, it's a lot of stuff we just don't know. I give Einstein and him a lot of credit for predicting certain kinds of phenomena that they would see from his equations and understanding of the space-time continuum, mass E equals mc squared, and the whole game, and then being able to predict black holes and so forth that we're able to see. But there's some other things that are just almost kind of beyond our comprehension when we start to get into the more complex aspects of quantum, of the whole quantum physics game and all that Einstein wasn't really able to really view, and he tried to pull a lot of this together with almost a unified type of field theory, but that wasn't really didn't take in to the quantum mechanics game, to the quantum physics game. So imaging the universe and what's really out here, we start looking at string theory and looking at all the different dimensions now that they're talking about, at least 11 and so forth that we're getting into. I don't know, man. Imaging the universe, this might be a job that may be beyond us at this stage. I don't know. I can't say I'm not one of these NASA guys or finding some new discoveries that they may be hiding, because we all know that their discoveries being made that we don't know about. But wow, this thing looks this is a Rubik's cube right now. This shit is deep. This is deep. This is deep. It's hard to follow. Wow.
I was talking, I didn't even realize I was muted. I think we should also keep in mind that Africans, before the Europeans got to the continent, they were working on this stuff as well, and that was, that predates Europeans arriving,
Oh, certainly.
3,000, 4,000,
Oh,
four
certainly.
thousand years ago.
Certainly. They imaged Sirius. They predicted it. The Mali, the Mali Empire, Shanghai. They knew this existed long before the Europeans did.
Hmm. Yeah.
They knew of star systems. They understood, kind of, a more, if we want to bring it to present day, speaking as the Age of Enlightenment with respect to the Europeans, moving from, moving from the Copernican, view of how, we revolve around the sun and so forth. They seem to have had a fairly strong understanding of that as well, and a very deep understanding of the stars. So they looked at deep star systems that we still can't, we don't want to talk about, but they certainly, we're on top of this and we're following the stars long before the Europeans ever came around. So I don't know,
And the
man.
only reason the only reason the progress stopped is because of the invasion, right, of the barbaric hell
Yeah,
faces. So
yeah, absolutely, an absolute fact.
let me knock out this one last article, and then we can open up for open mic and closing thoughts. All right, this next one is from earthsky.org. Closest rocky exoplanets could support life. Intense UV radiation from red dwarf stars would start to make potentially habitable exoplanets unable to support life, but a new study of the 4 nearest rocky worlds suggests otherwise. Some 4,000 exoplanets orbiting distant stars have been discovered so far. They They range from hot gas giants larger than Jupiter to smaller rocky worlds like Earth. That's that's exciting on itself. But one of the biggest questions is how many of those planets might be habitable. This is this is of particular significance in regard to rocky exoplanets orbiting in the habitable zones of nearby stars, since they are some of the easiest to study. One problem, however, has been that most of those known planets orbit red dwarf stars. The most common types, the most common type of star in the galaxy, which emit very high levels of UV radiation. This high energy radiation suggests it might be difficult for life to evolve on such worlds. But now, a new study from Cornell University by Lisa Kattenegger and Jack O'Malley James makes the case that life could indeed have already survived in such extreme environments. The paper focuses on four of the closest potentially habitable rocket exoplanets: Proxima B, um, TRAPPIST 1E, Ross 128b, and LAH, LAH, LHS 1140b, all of which orbit volatile red dwarf stars. The newest peer-reviewed paper was published April 9th, 2019, in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The intense radiation from red dwarf stars has been considered an obstacle for life to develop on any otherwise habitable planets that orbit them, since the radiation can destroy biological molecules. But that might not always be the case. In the new paper, Kautenegger and O'Malley James make the argument that life on planets orbiting red dwarfs should still be possible, since life on Earth evolved from organisms that endured an even greater amount of radiation from the early sun that some nearby red dwarf planets experience. What do you think about this, Lionel? Oh, Lionel's left. Going. You have anything you want to add to this?
That they could find life on red dwarf planets. I
Yes.
mean, excuse me, where there might be a red dwarf star. Yeah, I would think that life could exist in a lot of different environments. I mean, let's be frank about it. Shout out to my boy. Let's be frank.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, you, we live here. We are on this planet, and we can go to some of the greatest depths of our oceans, where we have black smokers coming up that they call black smokers, where water is so hot it's superheated to a level where you can actually melt lead down there. Melt lead. Literally just put a
Hmm.
lead ball in it, and it would literally melt, dissolve from the heat from coming from there. And here we see two plants and so forth living with no light or anything else like that under exceedingly unbelievably harsh conditions. Um, we see also that there are bacteriums and stuff that can live in conditions under extreme cold as well. Um, so I think life will arise and move wherever there's the opportunity, and um, if there is a shot for it to survive, it will. We may find life even in this, um, even in our solar system, with respect to who knows what could potentially be in the oceans that they're talking about, that may be on Io or Europa, where they believe that there might be oceans under the ice that might go down for where we have oceans that may go down here for 5 or 6 miles. They may have oceans that may go down for a lot deeper than that, twice as deep, and so forth. So under very extremely cold conditions, but it could be warm there as well, depending on
Oh, you see, like,
how how deep you go. So it's red dwarfs, planets that could be close to it that could have heat, and if they're protected from a certain level of radiation, and giving it and giving life a chance there to potentially take off with enough heat there, or let's say enough cold, if you will. Not that it's too cold, but cold, but yet still you're not at absolute zero or close to absolute zero where shit doesn't move, but it's cold, but yet you can have life that could exist. I think this could be possibly anywhere. I don't want to ramble on, but I just believe that yeah, certainly that life could potentially exist there. I don't think we can predict anything except to say that anything is possible. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible. What do you think? You think it is?
Yeah, especially based off of the theory that you brought up about the ability to live, I guess, beneath the surface, and there's life down there, potentially be sustainable. I mean, we're still finding new species in our oceans now.
Yeah.
To this very day, it's 2019. They're still finding new species out there. So we really don't know what's down there on our own planet. So we could potentially never know what's up there. For all we know, they could be, they could be, all types of breathable or livable organisms just laying up there, just waiting to be discovered.
We have no idea. I just know that we can go down to the deepest crevices of our oceans, go down 5-6 miles, go down lower, deeper than 35,000, close to 40,000 feet. Pressure is so great it would crush you. And we didn't believe that life was down there. And next thing you know, we went down there, put a small mini bathtub that went all the way down there with the camera, and was able to withstand the pressures. And here we saw tube plants, tube life, flat fish that were flat on the ground, flat, flowing across the ground. Then there was Jacques Cousteau, actually, with his bathtub, saw some kind of creature crawling, and he said, "What is this? We have no idea what it is." So there was things that we haven't even classified yet, that are so deep down, and they're dealing with chemosynthesis as opposed to photosynthesis. So instead of light being an initiator of life and metabolic transaction, you now have chemicals that are doing that, and you have even fish and so forth that are at a certain level where they produce their own internal lighting systems, where fish will fly, or literally down there with headlights, literally on them and stuff. I mean, bioluminescence. So man, just looking at the Earth, if the Earth is just a microcosm of the universe, what that would tell me is that the possibilities of what could potentially exist out here of the universe are endless.
And they're nocturnal as well, because there's no light down there. So
no light. And so they produce their own.
See in the dark.
So they produce their own light. They produce their own light, bioluminescence. They produce their own light. And then you go down to these areas where you think it's purely dark, and it's lit up with literally with bioluminescence of blues, greens, and yellows of immense color, lighting up all over the place, and it's unbelievable.
And that's why I never really believed this whole concept at all. Well, there's no life on Jupiter and Saturn and those places because of there's so many hot gases and things like that up there. That's we haven't sent a probe up there to confirm that stuff, to confirm those ideas, because we have like we were just mentioning, that there's life at the bottom of the ocean that we didn't even know about, and we're still discovering to this very day, just with the technology that we do have. Imagine if we didn't have the technology, we would never know that anything was down there. So,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One of the things that happens to us is that our knowledge got, I don't know how to describe it, but religion destroyed true knowledge, especially this Christian religion. It destroyed true knowledge. The people who ran the religion tried to keep people from knowing things, and it exists till today. Our universe is a living being. It cannot exist with anything dead in it. Death is something that we just, our religious leaders give us this life and death thing, and when you die, you disappear. That's far from the truth. If we are made of atoms, guess what? Energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. The universe has always existed. We tend to hold on to our religious dogma and forget that life is life. It may change from one form to another, but it's life. Whatever produces oxygen has to use another gas, break it down, and form oxygen. We take oxygen and we expel carbon dioxide. The trees use carbon dioxide.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way of the universe, period. Death cannot exist in the universe, only life. That's my preaching for the night.
All right.
You there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just checking the chat. Yeah, I think brothers, man, should black people in general should just be involved in in the sciences. I think that there's an opportunity with all of this discussion to actually create a social equity program. Leveraging the libraries with all of their books and knowledge that's available to the public, um, and creating nano degrees and micro degree programs in the sciences, in the astrophysics or planetary sciences, um, to actually get a launching pad going quicker, so that people don't have to keep you know people don't have to keep going to these colleges and these institutions and spending millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, putting themselves into debt, where they can actually leverage all of that free information from their public libraries.
Well,
Well,
well, well
our knowledge.
I just want to say something very quickly. Sal Khan with the Khan Academy. I mean, that's just one example. Um, he's got a whole program that could take you literally from first through the 12th grade, and then literally bring you up to a master's degree of information, of a degree that would be on par with that of Princeton or Yale. And you could just do that
Mhm.
at home without paying very little money. So this does exist. It's you have people and he's not the only one. So there are those who do have this out here. So this does
Mhm.
exist. I think the sciences are beautiful. It's beautiful stuff.
Mhm.
I'm a very much I like. I'm not a scientist. I'm a very much I'm a lover of science, and I've studied it. I understand mathematics and biology and these other things decently. Um, and I think it's the like I like foreign languages, so mathematics, these kinds of things, all these things are languages unto themselves as well, and then they're beautiful. They're beautiful when spoken nicely or properly. It's beautiful. So I believe we should
But
really be pushing that. We don't push it. We should push it a lot more.
well, I mean, so what I was saying was we have the institutions in our neighborhoods, but we're not leveraging those institutions to our advantage. Um, what's the point in paying taxes for a public institution that we're not going to take advantage of? I don't get the point to that. We should be demanding more from those institutions. They're democratic, so we have a say in all of this, and it's one of the few places that we do have a say in terms of institutional building.
Agreed. D, go
One of
ahead.
the,
You break it
That
down,
one of
D.
the reasons, one of the things that we have to ask is why do black people, especially, not have a deeper interest in this knowledge? Because it was, if we go back into our past, that is our foundation. So why today are we not the leading edge of this technology? Why? That's the question that I ask a lot of black people, and even some educated ones will give me the, like, well, it costs too much. No, it doesn't. You can on your computer today. I always preach to my kids. on the cell phone in their hand is the cell phone in their hand is one of the most valuable piece of real estate on the planet. That thing will give you information about it will tell you from the makeup of an atom to how to build a car, how to build a rocket. But it's how you use it. If you use it for texting and sending pictures of your naked girlfriend, of course your knowledge is going to be wasted. And we tend to use it for the worst of and I say we, I don't mean the 80%, 85% of black people tend to use it for the worst of everything that we can find.
I
That's
think
what I
there's some. Okay, I think there's something to be said though about. I think most major U.S. cities have their own museum of science and aquariums and things of that nature. Those are public institutions in our area, and we're not leveraging it. So before you even talk about a cell phone or a smartphone, you have to take into consideration that before there was a smartphone, there was a library. How many black people have a library card? How many black people are leveraging that library card? There's a lot of things. I don't know about where some other cities, but I know in New York and I know in Boston, man, the libraries are highly advanced now. They're not just a place you go check out a book. There's all types of programs going on in there, literacy programs. They have GED programs. They have, all types of intro to Mac, intro to Windows, intro to all types of aspects, man. So there's a whole lot of areas that we're not leveraging around us. The physical institutions we're not leveraging around us. Before you even get to a smartphone, before you get to an iPad or iPhone, we're not leveraging it. And I think that's kind of the point that I was making. And now they're talking about, you know, if a library doesn't even, I've heard in different places, maybe like Chicago or maybe like St. Louis or something like that, they had to close a library. They couldn't afford to keep it open. And I said, that's absurd. How can your tax dollars not afford the very institutions that are the bedrock of your communities? Doesn't make any sense.
because the people who are supposed to use the library are on the corner talking trash and fighting one another, even killing one another, murdering one another. The library is not as important as the foolishness that they're doing on the corner.
I don't think it's so much on the corner and all this horrific savagery we talk about, because a lot of that is overblown and not entirely accurate. I think what our biggest issues are is that our institutions in our own school systems, in many of our communities where we have school systems that are not very well run, that are underfunded and so forth, are not really centers where they're having kids being fed more into this library type system. That's a big part of our issue, and it's a systemic issue. It's a function of our system, and when we need to address that. That needs to be addressed.
You can't blame a system.
You know. Well, you have to look at the system because we helped to create it. The public school system was very much created by black people, and it's
I
not serving
understand that, but
and it's not serving us well because in many respects in our own communities we're not serving it well. We're not serving it well. We're not doing what we need to do. I can sit here and talk about Michelle Rhee and Fenty and them. When they were really trying to push a performance-based type of program to really get our schools up and running, and black folks themselves shut it down and decide to go with these chicken and biscuit eating fucking shit ass teachers to keep them in there and not give our kids the best. These are some of our own decisions that we made. I know we put a lot on the Pookie and the Ray Rays and the corner guys, but a lot of our problems actually come from more of the middle class, the more educated folks who are fucked up, who are not really on top of the game the way we need to have it. And I'm sorry to use that type of language here, but that's exactly what I have to say about it. I've looked at this deeply, and I'm very disturbed by what I've seen. Being that
how
I've
you
seen
gonna
other
blame the
systems that are
system?
doing a lot better.
How you going to blame?
But coming out of
Go ahead, Mike.
How you gonna
I
blame
was
this?
just going to say that coming out of I was just going to say that coming out of slavery, we were building institutions. We were building all your HBCUs, and
That's exactly what we
before
did.
there was any brick and mortar HBCUs, they were teaching in the black church. The black church was used as your city hall, your schooling system and your place of religion. It was a one stop shop for all of this stuff. How did all that change?
And we had the one-room schoolhouse. My father, when he went to school, you had the first grade in the first row, and you had the eighth or the ninth grade or excuse me, because I think at that stage you graduated high school in the 10th or 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade in the back row, and and out of that school system, the one-room schoolhouse, where Miss Thompson taught my father and all them, all right, and I saw her when my uncle had passed, and I was a very young teenager. She was a woman about 90 years old at that time, but I taught my dad and all them, and out of that came your principals, your doctors, your so forth, out of these black communities. And here we can't produce that now because of our system. So you're damn right it's a system. It's damn right what we got going on. Okay, I've seen it.
It is not the
Go ahead,
system.
DE, with your closing thoughts.
That one room schoolhouse that you're talking about. The teacher, you went to school in the morning. When you left to go home, the teacher, the system, you separated from the system. You went home, and your parents now became the system. Your parents said, said, boy, what homework you have today? Sit down at this table. You might get a couple cookies and a glass of milk, and you did your homework.
Yeah, I mean, we had a full system involved because it was your parents, your parents who were there who helped you do that. You had a school system that was there to help facilitate you getting your 3 R's, your reading, writing, arithmetic,
But then
and you had a whole system together.
you
Where
talking about
today, hold a second, let me finish. Where today, you have a school system where you got classes that are kids don't even have proper books. They're overcrowded. You got teachers who are subpar. A lot of the people are being underserved. So therefore, your library systems and so forth. When I went to the library for my school, and my elementary school was considered one of the best elementary schools in the country. We had assignments where we had to go to the library, where you had to go, where you had assignments where you had to do research from the library. It was required. All right. That's not required. That's what I'm talking about. Feeding it. You follow where I'm coming from. I think my point is well made here. I don't need to expand on that anymore.
So you're telling me today you don't have anything. When you leave school, you don't have work to do. That's what you're trying to tell me.
Is that what I'm trying to tell you? Really?
You're saying the system.
That's not what I'm trying to tell you.
Like I said, you're saying the system, and you're excusing the individual.
Nobody's excusing the individual. People are saying that you should have a system that helps to feed.
You want to hear what I'm going to say or not?
And build that greatly. I'm just not agreeing with what you have to say.
You want to hear what I'm going to say? I listen to you. You want to hear what I'm
going to say?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Say what you got to say. Go ahead.
You're excusing the individual. Me, I am out of the system now, but I still learn. I still pick up a book. I still go on the computer, search out information. Your kids have to do the same thing. I tell my son, I said, look, you are in school for 8 hours. Your schoolwork doesn't end when you leave school. When you get home, I mean, there's got to be some word that you don't understand, some statement that you understand with the teacher, and everything is on this computer. You can go back to it and look at it. You can educate yourself from this computer. When you said the system is against me and the system doesn't teach me, yes, we already know that the teachers are poor. But what about 1950 when we used to get books that were, that the other people never that were through using, Our books were teaching us about stuff that go in the 1900s, and their books were about 1950. And we were taking the books that was about history of 1900 and getting into university and doing better than they were. Their system were keeping us out. So what do you tell me about this system? The system, yes, we know what the system is doing to us. We know what the system is built to do. So you as an individual, I have a parent, got to make sure that my kids know, you know what? If you don't take the initiative and do this for yourself, and you depend on what they call, there's a million people getting out of school the same year that you getting out. And there are 10,000 jobs. Guess what? So you got to learn how to create your own. And the only way you can learn how to create your own, because your system is not going to teach you, your school is not going to teach you. They teach you ABC. So when you go to work, you can. So when you go to work, they can put you there and says repeat ABC. But if you learn what I'm teaching you at home, what you have to learn at home, you can go out and create your own business.
That's a speech, bro. But I dog shit.
Your mic is breaking up a lot, Nagone.
Things. Okay, learning success. It's a community process. You have to learn together. It's a community process. It's the community that you're in that helps you succeed.
It should be, but it's not. It's
listen. I'll let you run on, and let me finish. All right. It's the community that brings you up. That's why we're sitting here, even talk about the manosphere as a community, as a virtual community to help to facilitate learning. That's what this thing is about. That's what we talk about a community. So the system, the game that you set up that helps to facilitate your success is what this thing is about. That's what's helping to bring you together. You can sit down and talk about the individual all day long. It ain't about the individual. It's about the group, everybody learning together. The individual is very important to be motivated, but it's a community that helps people succeed. It's your systems of learning and these types that help you become sharper. And it's a collective effort. That's the key here. And that's what you seem to have sadly forgotten. And that's something that we can't forget. That's what this manosphere and all those things, when we talk about helping to get people's minds right and everything else like that, it's that community. And that's what I don't want to. That's what I don't want us to lose sight of. That's what I don't want you to lose sight of. All right. Anyway, I'm done.
I'm not
I think we're going to close this out.
I'm not losing sight of the community being at the center. However, I'm saying is you can't sometimes the community fails you, and you as an individual that helped make up that community has to kind of fight to bring it back. You can't just say, well, you know what, the community failed me, so you know what the hell. You know what I'm saying? In my mind, you have to fight to bring it back. Say you got to start listening and say, look,
you're saying something a little different.
And then you know what, follow me, and I'll help you do it.
I look at the Jewish community. I grew up around these people, different than what you grew up around. I grew up around these folks, and I saw the community effort that these guys have to make themselves successful. The Hebrew schools and everything else like this they have different schools. So I remember when I used to get out of school, then you see the Hebrew school bus with the Hebraic writing on the side. They pick up the Jewish kids and take them to Hebrew school. So they had a school after the school, and they were and that would be 2 to 3 times a week or twice a week when they had Hebrew school, and they constantly kept educating themselves. They had a whole system of educating themselves outside of also your regular school system. Is it any accident that many of them are your lawyers and your doctors and so forth? Why? Because the educational process continued to go on, and that was a community systemic effort. If you haven't seen that, you can't speak from it. I grew up around this. That's the thing you don't see that I do. That's what I
bro.
I
understand.
want to close it.
That others don't.
I want to close this out
But
because
anyway,
we're
we you know, anyway, I just want to say that we have to really support ourselves in many ways. But anyway, okay, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. I just want to close this out because we're about 5 minutes over. So my closing thoughts are institutional and structural inequalities have plagued Black people for a long time, but we also have to take into consideration that it is incumbent upon us to actually take an initiative. It doesn't have to be everybody. It only has to be 10% of the group to actually make this work. And if we don't start with the Black Brain Trust, you know, we're pretty much doomed. This is the last go around for Black people between 2020 and 2050. Like Dr. Claude Anderson said last week, you have until 2053 for Black people to get it together, or else we are finished. So it starts with this channel. It starts with Manosphere Compliance 3.0. If a channel doesn't have the criteria to meet that 3.0 compliance, you need to unsubscribe from those channels. Those channels are incompliant with fourth industrial revolution and emerging technology, as well as the necessity to actually sustain the community. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us, and we are out.